again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm Matty K. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to our PAX East 2026 recap. And, well, here we are talking about PAX East 2026. It's come and gone, and we were also joined, as we often are at PAX, by our associate producer, Sarah Moonen, who is joining us for this episode.
Hey, everyone.
We're all very tired. It's been only a week since this wrapped up, less than technically, but that's okay because we got to see and do a lot. I think this has quickly become my favorite event of the year. I like West when I get to go and I like Unplugged, but there's something about East, just the incredible density of the amount of people who come to this event that we only get to see like once a year that has made this feel particularly special. And I feel like this year, I'm curious what you both think, I feel like the people were almost more important than the games on some level. There felt like this priority of camaraderie and community that has existed in the past, but I think really stood out this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep saying this PAX was for the homies more than the games.
It's a good way of putting it.
I also think that the folks that were there this year were all so passionate about what they brought in a way that I don't remember being at every other PAX. I think that given the state of the games industry and everything going on, the people who paid to be at these things are the people who wanted to get their game in front of people and who were really passionate about doing so.
Yeah, big studio, small studio, there was a lot of passion.
I know the three of us at least have one game that we didn't see an email about or book an appointment for that ended up in our top three. That may have happened in the past. I can't quite recall, but it feels specifically pertinent this year. But there were so many games I think we saw, even ones that didn't make our list, that we didn't even see an email for. Maybe we missed it, or maybe there wasn't one that we ended up still really liking those games. And I think that's also kind of a signal for like how different this one was versus others.
Well, we also took it a little differently, right? So typically we make a ridiculous amount of appointments, schedule ourselves very thin so that we're able to see as many things as possible based on the emails that we as press get before the event. This time, we only went for the ones we were really, really excited about and then left ourselves open to the possibility of finding something great. And we sure did.
Yeah, we only scheduled a few interviews, but we had way more than we scheduled just because we would find ourselves in good situations and just kind of hey, if you got a few minutes to chat, because like you said, Sarah, the kind of enthusiasm and passion that everybody had was infectious and we wanted to capture it.
We have a habit of scheduling a shit ton of appointments and then also seeing something we really love and going, hey, can we come back on Sunday and chat with you? And then have even more appointments than we even had because we found things like, I think of Tanuki Pond Summer last year, which was one that we knew Liam, but it hadn't connected in my brain that Liam was the dev behind that and that it was going to be on the show floor.
I think about that game all the time. I cannot wait
Constantly.
for it to come out.
And it's funny. I don't think any of us really spent much time at Critical Reflex this year, even though they had a whole bunch of stuff showing off. I realized like halfway through Sunday that just like, shit, I hadn't ended up there yet.
So I got there to play Ink Blood because a friend of the show, Joseph Hooper, recommended it.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't break my top three. And like I have a long laundry list of the games that I saw, and maybe I'll shout out a couple of ones not on my list before we get into our list. But ultimately, there was tons of stuff I didn't get to. And I feel like that's the case every year. Though, that said, I can't help but admit that every year East feels a little lighter. Now, part of it is a lot of the AAA studio gaming space is on the West Coast. So West always has a larger presence of the AAA studios, full stop. But also staples that are here every year weren't here this year. Yacht Club wasn't here.
Devolver wasn't there.
Behemoth wasn't there. Larian, who's always had a giant booth for Baldur's Gate 3 for like the last 3 or 4 years running, had nothing here because they're knee deep on the newest Divinity game they're working on. And so they weren't at the con. And so I think a lot of those larger presences that have always been there not being there also made it feel a little more empty. And I'm not going to try and connect this to the state of the games industry, although I'm sure that has something to do with it. But it was more noticeable, I think, for me this year, both with not as many emails jumping out at us pre-PAX and the fact that our interviews were a little lighter, some of that by design, and the fact that the show floor felt even more empty this year. East has always been lighter than West as far as density, but I think I really noticed it this year more than previous.
We talked about this on last year's East wrap-up, but the tendency towards more tabletop gaming versus the video gaming is still apparent. And look, the celebrities are mostly in board games these days that are coming to these events. It makes sense, though we would be remiss to not mention that there were some heavy hitters there, right? Nintendo was back with a giant series of booths.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious because I feel like everybody who was so excited about Pocopia already had it, but also wanted to go get Ditto hats there. So it worked out. And the first thing we did was get a silly photo in the Nintendo pipes because it looked so fun and cool. And then they reposted us on the official PAX Instagram, which was also really fun. Our friends at Atari, always there, always a good time.
Yeah.
We got to meet the voice of Bubsy while hanging out with them, which was
Sean
one of my highlights.
What a delightful guy.
Yeah, Sean was great, and we hope to have him on closer to the release of Bubsy 4D. My brain keeps wanting to say 3D, but that one already came out. Bubsy 4D and talk about that.
We need more D.
We need more D. Anyway.
Well, and then we were all shocked and delighted to see Double Fine there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And while they're not in my top 3, I want to take a moment to talk about Kiln, which was a fun game. And I feel like I'm at a point where I'll just buy a Double Fine game because it's a Double Fine game and I want them to keep making Double Fine games. But the intuitive nature of making pottery as someone who has less than 0 physical art skills, I haven't drawn since I was like 12. It was really intuitive and really fun and kind of goofy. And that was really awesome. But yeah, there were still some heavy hitters on the floor. You know, the PAX Rising area is always some of the best of the best. I mean, I think we all have games that we loved from that area, even ones that may not be in our top 3, but we took notice of. I mean, I added so many games to my wish list this weekend. And so I think that there's definitely it's not like there wasn't anyone there, but it definitely felt like a shift. I mean, the biggest thing about the Double Fine booth is that all of us bought games because they were selling them at a bizarrely cheap cost. And so we all pretty much went crazy, go nuts, and bought basically everything. There was nothing left by Sunday. Sunday, there was only copies of the documentary left, which the documentary they were selling for $1 an hour at $33, which to me is still absolutely insane.
Obviously, we got it.
Oh,
Yes, yeah.
No, it's 8 Blu-rays, 6 of them for the documentary itself, as well as all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff. We haven't yet delved into it yet, but having watched the first third, I think, of Psych Odyssey on YouTube, it's absolutely something I wanted to support the studio doing. That kind of documenting of a process is truly unparalleled, and given how many different groups and people are trying to recover history of decades past of gaming, artifacts like this are crucial, and I can't help but support them.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And then I got to buy Grim Fandango, Full Throttle, and Day of the Tentacle for $5 each.
Yep, I got a special edition of Psychonauts 2, which I didn't actually own a physical copy of, for $10.
It has a lenticular cover.
The
does. Additional $5 feels like a steal.
Before we get too deep in games, I do want to shout out, of course, all of our friends. I can't name you all by name, but we got to see so many amazing people. Shout out to Jacob McCourt specifically for always putting on a Friday event at Dorchester Brewing where we get to hang out and just chill and talk about what we've seen so far, what we're doing. I made new friends, got to reconnect with old friends. I got to watch CG Danny B try and shove an entire cup in his mouth. So, you know, all in all, it was an eventful evening.
One of the things that was really special about that get-together for me, I remember when we were a group chat on Discord of media folks and we had a 10-person limit and we were trying to figure out how we were going to do this, and growing an indie games media Discord of people who are supporting each other, seeing each other at these events, bringing more people into the community. This was really the year where it felt like what we built exists.
It moved from a group chat to a community and felt like it.
When I started this community, which is not a public community, it's just a small Discord server where a bunch of indie creators and journalists can get together, you know, share contacts, edit each other's work, collaborate on podcasts and writing projects and websites and other things. It was something that I kind of was bullied into starting by Roger and Jacob and now feel quite responsible for. But mostly it was, the idea was just, we had this group chat. There was only a 10-person limit and always someone was left out of it just because we couldn't fit everybody. When planning for PAX East for the last few years and West's, we decided, what if we made a Discord server? There's no limit to how many people we can invite, and that way we can kind of create a space around it. And it has served as like a second home for especially Jen and I, for like bouncing ideas, joking about content creation, sharing frustrations about content creation and writing. And like for me, as someone who's now written an article a month for a year and a half almost, like a way to get my work edited and also look at other people's work in a vulnerable place where we're still figuring out our voices and what we want to do, while there's still plenty of expert professionals in that space as well, willing to share their knowledge and help. the thing I hate most about the games industry in the broad, all over the place, is there is a lot of gatekeeping. Thankfully, most of the people we know don't do that. But like, there is a lot of it. And so to have a place where we can share resources is really important. And you make a good point, Sarah. This hangout this year, which was the largest it had been, somewhere around 30 people, was like the true fruition of that community coming to life in physical space, getting to connect and share our love, not of just the stuff we do, but each other. I was listening to No Small Games wrap up earlier today, and Emily said something along the lines of, it's criminal that we only get to see these people like once a year, and like we should be seeing them all the time, which I'm going to throw out the, artist commune idea that I've had for years, and we'll just all move upstate and then.
The podcaster version.
Yes, exactly. But
podcaster edition.
Yes, exactly. But to that end, like, I agree. Like, I consider, like, not to name names, but to throw out Dave Jackson, I've gotten very close with him over the last couple of years, and I consider him a very close friend that I only get to see like once a year, maybe. And it just doesn't compute in my brain. These are people I talk to all the time, thanks to Discord and other things. And so when we get to spend that physical time together in a space and just enjoy good food and drinks and hang out, it that fills me up in a way that a lot of other things don't.
Me too. And it's gotten so big that literally at the end of the night, Jacob had a knighting ceremony that I am now in charge of booking the next one. So no pressure. Don't worry.
Right. And I'm honestly surprised it took this long at this point, since he was basically relying you at lunch for lunches on the last West we went to. It was like, wait, Sarah, where are we going? So
I love planning stuff. So honored and delighted.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. You're the reason we eat sometimes. So thank you for that.
It's helpful that I don't function when I don't.
Yeah, no. As somebody who makes sure that Sarah eats 350 some odd days out of the year, I do appreciate the week or so of days for conventions where she makes sure we do. And honestly, that feels like an equitable trade.
The other great part about having good friends at these things is getting to see them on panels.
Yeah, and for once, I was on a panel and Jen was not. It was my turn. And so I do want to start by shouting out the one and only Adam Gumbert, who you will hear in this podcast feed not too long from now on another upcoming episode. More on that soon. Adam hosted Game Pretty, which was legally distinct Jeopardy parody with video game related questions, where it was me, Jacob McCourt, Claire, After All, and Emily Merritt of No Small Games competing in a Jeopardy style tournament. There was lots of laughs. I won a lot of licensed Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games. I've posted them on the internet. It is a weird assortment. No, I haven't played any of them yet, but I have been thinking about it.
So I want to challenge something you said there, Matt. You mentioned that Jen wasn't on the panel, but there sure was an audience component to said panel that you were on. And there were about 10 or 12 people rotating through on two different microphones. And who sniped a couple of questions from you on that panel?
Yeah, Matt, who did it?
That would be one Jen Moonen.
It was me!
Look, I got the Mass Effect questions right. That's all that matters.
What's Miranda's last name?
Lawson, we're not going there. I will never forget it. I am not. Look, at least I am not who's Tracer from Overwatch.
I was going to say, this is this to
this
become
is your Tracer.
Yeah,
it wasn't
not the same.
We'd have to
not
make
the same.
We'd have to make that happen. This is just a goofy little thing. No, you did great. I also won an Xbox game. I won Brute Force, an Xbox original exclusive.
Congrats.
Thank you.
It was a fun time. Adam was very early on in his villain arc against Emily, and it just got funnier as the night went on.
Sure did.
And then, we got to see a bunch of other stuff as well. Video game Tinder happened again, and it was as unhinged as you would imagine, like it is every year.
Always is.
We questioned ourselves as Yoshi was put up as a dateable, and people asked how old Yoshi was. It was a whole thing. Also, Jacob hosted Video Game Trivia again, which is always a blast. Shout out to Team Bread, who took home the gold. The audience didn't win this year, which is a first. I feel like the last few years the audience has won.
I think it's because I wasn't part of the audience showing. I was recording the audio.
That's true. You were. But it was great as always. I feel like Jacob has been in his Bob Barker era for a while now, including his entrance, which was pretty epic this year, with an announcement from previous guest on Trivia, Asa Green River. That panel is just always a blast, and I'm glad that we get to go and just be in the audience. And someday I will compete again to prove my usefulness, because my first time on it, I did horribly, to no fault of Morgan Shaver. It was all on me. I absolutely fumbled that one. But yeah, it's always a good time.
Panels are always crazy like that, and it was really good to hear Asa. They were unable to make it to PAX and were dearly missed, but it was nice that they could be part of it in their own way.
Totally. I believe Jen, you and Sarah went to an impromptu Iffy Waddy Way special panel this year
we
as
did.
well.
We actually went because we ran into our friend Stella Chu, who we haven't seen in many, many years. And
I was like, I know there's a correct connective thread here somewhere, but I'm too tired to remember what it was.
Yeah, no, it was so, speaking of the homies, right, it was great reconnecting with someone we hadn't seen in ages who, moved out to LA to live the dream and be a pro cosplayer and sure is doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just nice to be like, you did the thing. I'm so proud of you. She and her husband, Jeff, were like, I last minute on a panel. And it was 10 minutes before that time. And I was like, I need to sit somewhere. I was like, I wonder what's happening. Iffy and his friends rank random stuff. That's not exactly the name of the panel, but it was something like that. And I was like, hey, Stella, is this the thing? And they were like, yep, And I was like, cool, great, we're going. That sounds fun. It was chaos.
So what ended up happening was it was fully the audience providing like subjects for top 10 lists. And Iffy brought on 10 guests that apparently he had asked all of them less than 24 hours before the start of the panel to be on the panel. So you know what? I felt kinship and solidarity with those people and also exhilarated joy because that is a good deal of fun to do it like that. They rolled a D10 to determine where on the top 10 list they would be responsible for. So if you rolled a 9, you would have to supply what was the 9th top whatever.
Every time.
Yeah. Whatever it was.
Ice cream flavor.
Shades of red.
Number.
Ways to get dumped.
Yeah, that one was pretty good.
That one was hilarious.
So it was a lot of fun. It was chaos, a little different than the usual kind of panel that we go to. And then y'all went to a panel as well.
Yeah. It was a discussion about sort of the history, past, present, and future of licensed games.
Yes. And it was with Derek and Charlotte of Castle Bravo fame, along with friends of the show, Matthew Finneman and Cam Hawkins. And they basically, talked through like the trajectory of licensed games, how they were kind of everywhere in the early video game days, then started to like disappear, and now how they're here in different forms and mobile gaming and other places, and how Fortnite is basically the king of licensing and all of this stuff. And it was really interesting because this is a topic that Jen and I have covered on the show before and have lamented about in different ways. And so to listen to 4 experts, game devs / content creators who have been playing games for a very long time, debating, is Kingdom Hearts a licensed game? Are sports games licensed games? Like, it was a really great conversation, and like one of the more podcasty kind of panels where there is some interactivity, but mostly it's designed for like listening and listening to the talking heads. And it was really fascinating. Like, I believe it'll be on Pixel Spectrum, which is Derek's new podcast, at some point, but
Yes.
It was a really great conversation.
It was a great conversation all around. They got into some fun areas. Derek did a really good job of wrangling and managing and keeping things going. And it was, on a lighter note, very fun to watch my favorite Kingdom Hearts sicko, Cam Hawkins, have to discuss, is Kingdom Hearts a licensed game? And it was a funny discussion, and it also really provided an intriguing rubric to how we define these sorts of games. And if you want to have a decline in AD or anything as far as licensed games goes, it really comes down to your definition of what is a licensed game. How we thought of them in the 8 and 16-bit era definitely declined, but there was no shortage of licenses being utilized throughout the gaming industry in all the years.
Yeah, it was a great time. And like, Jen and I aren't the only people, obviously, who do long form discussion based content on the internet, but it's always fun to hear other people that I respect and adore dive into topics in the same kind of, for lack of a better term, insanity that the two of us do, to really get to the nitty gritty of stuff. And so this was one of those. And if you haven't checked out Pixel Spectrum, which is Derek's new discussion and interview podcast, I highly recommend it.
I do love some good feral academia about my video games.
Yeah. I do want to shout out one experience that I think surprised, I can safely say, the three of us, which was Backyared Baseball.
We met a celebrity.
We did meet a celebrity, and like, we have photos, we posted them online. Pablo was there, the Pablo from Backyared Baseball. But you'll hear this interview later in the show, but we got to interview Lindsay, who's the head of the production company that brought back all of the Backyard sports games on Steam and is behind, with Maggie Cat Studios, bringing to life this new reimagining of Backyared Baseball. And we got to play the demo, which was a lot of fun. But there are 2 interviews this year that I think are my favorites. I hate to pick favorites, but both talking to Lindsay about this and then Trinidad about Big Black and Gaming, there was like this passion that was palpable during the conversation. That, not to say the other interviews didn't have it, but there was something different about these. Like, you can tell that these are people who came from a long line of gaming and love for gaming in a way that just feels explosive, like just this really fire of energy. And so we have a lot of really great interviews with a bunch of different folks, both from our top 3 and otherwise, but those 2 in particular. It's always fun to talk to people who are clearly passionate about the things they're passionate about and almost overflow with excitement in like a kiddie kind of joyful child way.
That's the ideal you want for people working in games, making games, and putting games out there.
Absolutely.
Are there any other games people want to give a quick shout to? We will be featuring a brief interview discussion with Jeremy from Limited Run in partnership with NOLA Nerdcast and our good friend Matthew Finneman, which is a great conversation. We'll have Jeremy on later. He's the head of marketing for Limited Run to talk more marketing in games. I played Replaced, which I didn't put on my list because it comes out when you're hearing this very shortly, and I just felt like that was cheating, but I loved that as well.
Well, let's take a little bit of time and get into each of our top 3s for PAX East. And I'll start off with my number 3, which is Cat Secretary. It's a little bit of I don't want to say it's cheating, but
it's a little cheating, but we like them so much.
We do like them so much. And it's also something that I feel it's worth shouting out, especially because I was talking about it at PAX East because I completely missed it when it was at PAX East 2025. I brought it up to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, I played it last year. It was really good," or it was okay. And they made it better. That's so cool. And it's great to hear the progress that's been made. But yeah, no, we reconnected with some of the folks from Good Story Guild through Rachel Music at the Mix at PAX West. They weren't officially showcasing there. It was really cool to get to play it on the floor, see where the demo's going these days. And I also consider it a little bit cheating because we're going to have Rachel on in a future episode to talk about Cat Secretary. And also my voice is in the game. So that kind of pushes things one way or another. But I do really enjoy the game. Being developed and published by Good Story Guild, it is going to release this year. There isn't a demo out yet, but there should be one very shortly, which is another reason why I think it's permissible to have it on the list here. I do want to shout it out and I want to point people towards it. Just a good old fun bit of lighthearted dystopia where you are a cat being a secretary at a company that has AI, nefarious schemes, and a Disney-like parallel business with animals in it as well. It's a good time, and I've never had more fun trying to make coffee without thumbs.
Yeah, it was a good time. I got to play the demo at PAX East as well. The 3 of us were either around to watch or played a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about in our top 3s. This is one of those ones that like I knew I had missed and really wanted to play. And it's about as adorable as you would think. When the cat gets a collar with a tie, I was in. You are guided also by an adorable, very obnoxious robot. Think more in the Navi of Zelda vein, but more charming. But there's a lot to discover even in the demo. It was a lot of fun. And yes, doing the tasks without thumbs, organizing files, cleaning or making the coffee. There was just a bunch of really goofy, silly office tasks. And as someone who has a lot of experience working in offices, like watching Office Space, there was a lot of relatability in this video game.
Oh, absolutely. Although I think there was more unchecked hate of capitalism than I'm allowed to do at my job most of the time.
This is why we play games.
It sure is.
It sure is. It was great. And the voice acting, I think, was the most standout part of the demo. Like, the voice acting was top tier. It was really great.
My number 3 of the show is The Secret of Crystal Mountain, developed and published by Revolution. So, for those of you who miss the kind of 3D Zeldas of the past, this is a game for you. It was beautiful. That was actually what drew me in at first. I saw some guy playing it and I was like, wow, this is so vivid beyond anything else. The graphics were beautiful. The puzzles were fun. It was awesome to find keys to get not an ocarina, it was a flute, and to turn into a bird and to go all around and do all of those things. It was one of those games that I kept thinking about all weekend long, having played it on the first day.
Yeah, the soft storybook style that it had about it, but like almost an epic storybook, was utterly enchanting. And you seem to really enjoy the controls. I did not get to touch them, but
oh, it was seamless. The controls were great.
And that's the thing. I know what a stickler you are for a play experience under your thumbs, so I will take your word as gospel.
I mean, also, I don't know a better 3D adventure game expert, mostly 3D collectathon, but 3D landscape control guru than one Sarah Moonen, who is basically the first person I think of when I think of 3D games, especially collectathons. But I watched you play quite a bit of it. There's two things that came to mind. One, it looked really pretty. Two, it looked like it controlled well. I lied. Three things. If you're a Tunic sicko, this is like behind the back 3D platforming Tunic, but you play as a fox. So yes, I'm comparing them for that superficial reason. But like even one Jill Grote, who we adore, was like, ooh, this looks like Tunic. And so was hanging out by the booth when we first got there. Like it has that vibe, but to that end, while Tunic was emulating more top-down, classic Zelda, this is definitely more emulating the more 3D.
Like the Ocarina of Times, the Majora's Mask, that kind of vibe.
It's one of those games that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Even having not gotten hands-on with it, just getting to watch you play Sarah, like I could see the breadth and scope of it. I am curious how the final version will feel, just because we've had other games like this in this genre, many. And so to stand out is what I'm curious about, but I'll definitely give it a shot, if nothing else, because the main character is obviously so adorable.
Yeah, and look, I was like, man, look at that bird on that thing. I want to turn into that bird. I played a song. I was that bird.
Hell yeah.
This is why we play games.
It's true. My number 3 was a surprise that it was going to be at the show, but it's one of my most anticipated games of the year, so I didn't really think I'd get to play it. But my number 3 is Well Dweller, the new game from Kyle Thompson. It's being developed by Kyle Thompson and then being published by Kyle and Top Hat Studios. Kyle has done Crypt Custodian, which I never shut up about, which is a Metroidvania in the afterlife where you play as a cat, and had a lot of charm, whimsy, and dark humor. Well Dweller appears to be the same. It's a side-scrolling action-adventure. I can't quite tell if it's going to be a Metroidvania or not. The demo wasn't long enough to really tell, but it does feel more in the veins of, I would lean more towards a Silk Song than anything else, because it's got a heavy aesthetic, clearly a deep lore. There's a challenge to playing it. But the game is full of that sauce, for lack of a better word, that the Kyle Thompson's previous games have had. And I really dug it. It's at number 3, even though it's my most anticipated game, because the demo wasn't great. Part of the problem with the demo was when I played it before it was shifted to one of the laptops at Top Hat's Studios booth, it was on the big TV, and the big TV had a controller but no headphones. So I couldn't hear anything. And for me, game experiences require the sound. I have friends who got to play it later on that weekend at the laptop with the headphones on and said it was a much better experience, but I never got back around to it. But what I played felt really good. The combat and the platforming felt pretty tight, though I'm bad at dodging and parrying. So, that's my own personal struggle.
I was actually going to ask. I got my hands on Well Dweller, and I was like, you like this game that much? It was hard.
Yeah. The thing about difficulty for me is that I have found that there's this sweet spot. I mean, I say I hate difficulty, and then I've completed every Metroid game that's ever come out. So, it's a give and take. I think the charm of a Kyle Thompson game is what's pulling me towards this more. But because I didn't get that complete experience, it couldn't possibly top my list because I was missing elements of it. I started, I think, in the middle of the demo. So I didn't have any tutorial really. And that could just be the design of the game to throw you in the deep end first and let you figure stuff out, like a lot of modern action games.
I think it threw you in the middle. I don't remember a heavy tutorial at the beginning.
So if the final game has more of a tutorial, which I imagine it will, that'll probably feel better as well. But all in all, aesthetically and control-wise, it was one of those games that I really dug. And so I am still excited for the full release. Oh, the tags on Steam does say Metroidvania, so I guess it is. So then it'll obviously be my favorite game ever because I loved their last Metroidvania. But yeah, I think the difficulty, lack of tutorialization, and no sound or music made it hard to push to the top of my list. But I really dug it, and I'm glad I got hands-on with it.
Me too.
Well, let's move on to our number 2s. My number 2 was from the PAX Rising area. I actually played it pretty early on in the weekend, and it's Canvas City, being developed and published by Disc 2 Games, which is a spin-off studio of Black Salt Games, who were the makers of Dredge. Canvas City is a bit of a tactics game, sort of XCOM style, but it's an XCOM for Jet Set Radio. You are skating around, you are spray painting, you are fighting rival gangs, and you are bringing back art and creativity in a heavily dystopian world. Do I like fighting back dystopia with art and whimsy? Yes. Yes, I do. I also like tactics games, and I also like Jet Set Radio. It's pretty early in development, I would say. They don't have a release date yet. The demo's not out, but the aesthetics alone drew me in, and the gameplay kept me going. It was a really fun time.
Yeah, this is one that didn't make my top 3, but was one that I really enjoyed. Part of it was Jacob McCourt and I are recently converted Tactics sickos, thanks to Final Fantasy Tactics, the new remaster that came out. And so when I saw Jen playing this, I was like, well, now I've got to try it. And then told Jacob about it. And Jacob was like, oh, I have to try it, and really loved it as well. Basically anything with tactics, I'm going to give a shot. And like, I love the Jet Set games. So like the fact that this is taking from that aesthetic and also fighting back against, maybe say an overwhelming force, a regime, we'll say, maybe there's some authoritarianism, anti-capitalist stuff. Not relevant for any real reason right now, of course. But
yeah, of course
not. Of course not.
Right. But that also played to it. And the art style was dope, though a little barren in the demo, which I think was by design, so you can kind of really read the movement. But I loved the art design that I saw, and I'm looking forward to like a more fleshed out game. As they admitted when we chatted with them briefly at the booth, that this is in early development and this is like a first shot at it, and they're still actively working on building it out some more.
Yeah, the vibes were great. I'm not a tactics fan, but I gave it a shot. I just ran around and spray painted things and didn't fight the people, and I had a great time.
And there is actually within the tactics system, they have a fun give and take of using special points for abilities and moves, and then other things that are for movement and traversal, and kind of them feeding each other. You're going to be doing ramps and verts and grinds. And so there's a little bit of a Tony Hawk-esque point system going on as you do tricks, as you make your way through. And there are point multipliers. And so you get graded at the end of the battle sequences. And there's all sorts of little side missions that are not crucial, but it's kind of did you control enough of these billboards at the same time? Did you find the secret magazine? I don't know if anyone found the secret magazine. Is there one? Maybe they just put that there to entice us.
I controlled all the billboards.
You controlled all the billboards. There you go.
But I didn't get to that checkbox because I did not win the battle because I did not fight.
See, this is what it's all about. And games like this, I appreciate when there's lots of little systems working in concert to make a fun experience. Early in development, but it's already got a great feel to it, a fantastic look. I like the little cycles and circles they're already putting in place, and I look forward to seeing the bigger picture as it comes into focus.
Same. And I loved Dredge. Dredge was one of my favorite games the year it came out. So to know that studio spun off another studio from that studio within that umbrella means that it's similar talent and similar minds and similar chops. And so I'm really excited to see what they come up with alone just based on that.
My number 2 was a game called Litany, developed by Minigoof and published by Two Wedges. People on the podcast, I'm not sure if I've told you this before, but I am a little obsessed with Balatro.
A little?
I'm not allowed to play it at night, though this week I have been playing it at night, and I've remembered why I made this rule for myself. I would actually consider Litany a Balatro-like. It is a roguelike deck builder. The thing that sets it apart is you actually place your cards on a 3x3 grid. Your cards are little people that fight. It added such a fun additional strategy element to me that I loved it. I thought it was awesome. My game of it was totally different than Jen's game of it. Our builds were super different. I had all red people. They had all green people. And I see unlimited possibilities in this. And I'm so excited for it to come out.
And it also has some Slay the Spire to it. It has a bunch of other influences. But the thing that it made me think of the most, I didn't realize it when I was playing it, but after the fact, it reminded me of the original version of the Versus card system with the Marvel and DC characters. When you put your heroes down, there was a front row and a back row, so there was coverage there. There were teams and affiliations that your characters could have that could help each other out. One of the big things for me in my playthrough of Litany on the floor was about building synergy in the teams. It's because you basically got essentially 4 suits, but a few more than that as revealed by playing through. But it started off just as a few. And how those help each other and where you put them matters. And when you put them down also matters, whether it's additive or multiplicative. And so there is such a fun amount of strategy. And even in their advertising, they are outright, we want you to break this game. Make some crazy math, make it happen. I love that kind of encouragement. It actually makes me think of Clover Pit a little bit, where it's that kind of, yeah, we've stacked the deck, break it. That's also part of it. And having that kind of conversation with the game design feels this is the idea, and I like the idea.
Yeah, and when they pitched it to me, they were like, you know how you like that numbers get big part of Balatro? You'll like this game. And I was
yeah.
Yep, okay, you got me.
And the design of it also has a little bit of a deep black ink gothic kind of dungeon crawl feel to it as well, which there's no shortage of deck builders that have been utilizing that sort of aesthetic. And just because this is another one doesn't mean that they're not doing a great job with it already.
Yeah, this is one that I missed, but I will definitely keep an eye out. Numbers go big is admittedly a genre I think we all like.
Oh, yeah.
Jen and I actually got code for another game that we'll talk about in a later episode. That is that to the max mixed with nostalgia, and I am losing myself in a way that I fear Sarah was with Balatro, and I could be in trouble.
Yes.
But more on that soon.
But Litany is a little bit of tactics, a little bit of numbers get big, a little bit of look at the fun cards. I love all of these things. I'm so excited.
Hell yeah. All right, on to my number 2. This may be a shock to our listeners, but Jen and I are big fans of Shovel Knight. I don't know if y'all know that about us. Total shock, I'm sure. And so while, of course, we are waiting with bated breath for Mina the Hollower to come out imminently, I'm always looking for the next 2D platformer or pixel art style game that can kind of wrap itself around my heart. And by complete accident almost, friend of the show I mentioned earlier, CG Danny B, mentioned that I should check out Cursed Chapter Dawn Thief, which I had not heard of, didn't know. It was next to another game that I was planning on playing, Polyfighter, which was great, but didn't make my top 3. And so it's like, all right, I'll go check it out. And when I saw the art style, I immediately went, okay, I have to sit down and play. Sarah at one point also had come over to me while I was waiting in line for Polyfighter and went, oh, what's, we were chatting. I was like, oh, I'm going to go sing thing next door. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll check it out. And then got up and went, oh my God, Matt, you have to play it.
Yeah, and I was going to fight you for this on top 3, but you liked it even more than I did, so you can have it.
Cursed Chapter Dawn Thief is by Colorgrave. It's developed and published by them. They have a whole litany of games. So this is something that I experienced, I think, for the first time at this PAX that I've experienced in a while, but finding dev studios who've existed for years that I've never heard of. We Were Here Tomorrow is a co-op game that you guys got to play that's apparently from a studio that's been around forever. Friends of the show, Bopo and Emily Merritt, played all of them together, which is adorable. There was so much of that this year, and it's so exciting to me because then it means there's a history of stuff I can go back through.
And we don't have to wait for the new stuff to come out.
Right.
Right. We can play the old stuff. And so anyway, Cursed Chapter Dawn Thief, you play as this jester character who wakes up on a ship. You get a bunch of traversal mechanics and weapons, and then you are exploring and fighting. It's basically if you've played a 2D action platformer, it's one of those, and it feels great. The demo was criminally short, but I know they wanted to keep people moving. That said, it's the tightest controlling thing I think I played all weekend. It's one of those games that I played and went, oh no, this is for me. I'm in trouble. In the same way I played Replaced, but that's actually coming out soon. I have no idea when this is coming out, though they do say 2026. I also, for the record, so they were doing this cool thing when you demoed the game, you got cards. They made their own little collectible card set and also gave you a random free game from their catalog, which was really lovely. And so I actually got one of those games, and I wanted to shout out because now I know what it is because I redeemed it. It's Claire a la Mode, which is like a kind of Nintendo-style 2D platformer that I'm excited to play that I got as a free gift for trying their new game. And so that was kind of a fun little thing.
I believe they said that the Dawn Thief is a villain in that game.
Oh,
so
awesome.
the main character in this game originated in the one that you got the code for.
Yeah, they've got all of their games connected to each other, which I also appreciate. And also surprises me that this is the first time I'm hearing about them. I feel like any one of us would have been all over these games.
Yeah, I mean, I've now wishlisted their entire catalog, and they range between top-down Zelda-likes, 2D platformers, from like the 8-bit to 16 and 32-bit aesthetic, which is something that Jen and I talk about often. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to have discovered a new indie studio making cute, short little indie games of genres that I love. And Cursed Chapter Dawn Thief went from a game that I'd never heard of to one of the top of the list of excitement for 2026. And so, yeah, there is a demo currently on Steam for it. I believe it's similar to the demo they had at PAX East. And if you are curious about this game, go play it and then wishlist it because it was incredible.
Well, speaking of a little bit of throwback and a great deal of fun, I'm going to get to my number 1, Crystalmancers from Vania Games. It's currently being developed by Vania Games. They are looking for a publisher. This was recommended to me on the first day. I was chatting with Katie Lesperance and Jacob, and they both said, you should go play this. It's kind of like Tetris, but also a bit of a roguelike turn-based kind of thing. That is what it is, but I don't think that does it justice. It's a bit of an RPG, a bit of a dungeon crawler. It is built around making rows like it's Tetris, using the 7 Tetramino shapes that you are used to with Tetris. But the first thing we do in the demo is Austin, one of the developers, said, "Which piece do you like the least?" What? Just which one do you like the least? You're going to make it better.
I love that you didn't just have an immediate answer. The answer is obviously the left Z.
I actually picked the square, and I'm glad I did.
I picked the T. We all picked different stuff.
I love the T. The T is so good.
T's the best one.
I know. The T gets everywhere. The square so often gets in my way. They're all useful. They're all good. It just doesn't suit my style. I don't build around it.
New Fun and Games episode where we debate with a panel of guests which is the best Tetramino. Just throwing it out
Dressed as said Tetramino.
Yes, obviously.
This is the kind of thing where you got to make yearbook superlatives. Which is the bad boy? Which one is
most likely to succeed?
The long
the
one.
line.
The
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
See, there's already clear answers. Catch us at PAX West.
But wait,
Exactly.
no. One of the best parts about this game, though, Jen, is that we're not stuck with the Tetraminos we know and love.
That's what I'm getting to. So the first thing you do is you put a glyph on one of them that anytime you complete a line, that glyph destroys every block on that line. So you get bonus points, you do extra damage to the monster that you're fighting. Because you are fighting monsters when you do these things. And yes, there is a blocksmith, not a blacksmith, a blocksmith that lets you add further blocks to these pieces.
Or take them away.
You're absolutely right. So by the time you get to the dragon fight in this demo, you have already perverted the known pieces of Tetris and made something new. When it's pointed out that, if something gets destroyed underneath, you don't have to drop it from the top. You just put it where it fits, and perspective shifts. It's no longer dropping. It is top down. All of these little shifts that happen with pieces that we know and are easily able to connect to. This is why Balatro was so successful. We know how to make poker hands. Now let's make it weird. We know to make lines, and here are the shapes we know how to do. Now let's make it weird.
It's really the only kind of roguelike I like, and I love it so much. I would put Peglin in that category, too.
This was kind of the game that became a whole chain of all of us going, no, come play this game. Come play the game.
Yep.
Sit down.
This was the one I wanted to fight you for to have on my top 3.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't play it until the last day, and I am the roguelike hater in the group. They're fine.
Me too.
But I often struggle with them. Hades is an anomaly for me. Balatro is an anomaly for me. But this is one that I played and immediately because I love Tetris so much went, oh no, this works with my weird brain chemistry. I want to play a full game of this yesterday. I was so excited. I blew through the demo. I decimated it. I've never felt that in control of roguelike playing a game. And it hit on all cylinders. The design is great. The character models are great. The effects are really good. It's really crunchy in a tactile way. I really got hooked in really quick.
You get super moves. There's apparently going to be more characters you can play as, so there's more specificity to that. And as the one who, I guess I'm the only one who likes roguelikes on this podcast, something I enjoy about them is the ways that those little things pop up and suddenly synergy happens, or there's the delight of it all clicking and falling into place. But yes, a great deal of roguelikes have a great deal of complication to them and abstraction, which can be a feature for many people and a huge detriment to others, like y'all. So something that is that anchor point of, oh, you don't have to add additional abstraction. I already know how to Tetris. Tetris, in fact, is one of those games. It would take you longer to explain it in words than it is to just give it to somebody and say, here.
I agree with that, but also taking the gravity out of Tetris
Yes.
and making it so that you don't just have to block go down also takes a lot of the stress of what Tetris can be. I can play, if it didn't get faster, I could just play for hours and hours and hours. But once it gets to that point where you can barely think before you have to move it and turn it and bring it down, it no longer becomes fun for me. This took all of that and was like, hey, what if it never went down? What if you just have this piece and you get to figure it out?
And they already had found ways to play with the sense of time and impending doom. One of the attacks that the dragon boss had was like a poison gas that every time you rotated the piece, it lost a block, which you could use to your advantage or not. And if you're somebody who's already gotten used to the fact that, oh, I have all the time in the world and will habitually hit buttons just to hit buttons like I do.
And me.
And you. And we'll just kind of spin the piece as we think. Well, suddenly that 5-block piece that we made, that super piece we made, now has 2 blocks. And maybe that helps and maybe we're screwed.
Maybe it fits in that hole the dragon made with his fire. And it's amazing.
And those sorts of moments are why this is my top game of PAX East 2026. And I am so excited for where this game goes.
I'm going to lose so much time to it.
You won't be allowed to play it at night.
I will not. Tetris is one of the other games I'm not allowed to play at night because I play it in my sleep. I mean, it's literally called the Tetris effect, where you just keep playing it in your brain. So
They made a game with that title.
Alrighty. My number 1 game of show for PAX East 2026 is Super Cucumber by Cubicorn Games. I have been evangelizing this all over PAX and on the internet. It's a 2D action platformer, but has puzzle and precision elements to it that just made it so charming. The art looks kind of like an old school Flash game almost, but it plays so smoothly. The controls are amazing and it's forgiving, right? So you do something hard, you have to do it 4 times to get over it, but there's a save point right there on the other side, like a little checkpoint. So you can keep going and keep playing the game and keep exploring the world. There's Mega Man style bosses at the end of each castle that are very different. One's more of a puzzle boss, one's a really heavy hitter and you got to learn its patterns, things like that. And the different levels have different focuses. One of the towers is really about platforming. The other one is about pushing switches and buttons. I played one of the like buggier later levels as well, and that one was really fun, like gravity turning platform situation. This game was awesome. I kept thinking about it. I went back. I played it more. Also, I happen to be very good at it, and I like games that I'm good at that other people aren't. Only 1 or 2 people a day beat the boss that I beat, and I was the first one of the show to have done it, I think. Or at least the first one that day.
Yeah, there aren't many games that one of us will drag the others to play. There are a few, but this one, Sarah, literally anyone she could get her hands on and direct in that direction went, go play this game. Like our whole crew, all of our friends, complete strangers, it didn't matter.
I loved it so much. I can't wait to play it.
It was really great. I didn't get to play it till I think the second to last day. But the thing is, and like this is what you're constantly learning to push against your own biases. And this game I saw and went, oh, that looks like a Flash game. It's probably nothing, right? Because, you know, we play a lot of games and biases develop and like, you know, we judge books by their cover sometimes. We just can't help it. And I completely wrote it off based on its art style, which I shouldn't have. And then once Sarah came to me, was like, have you played Super Cucumber? And I went, really? That game? But then I got hands-on and I saw exactly why. And honestly, knowing now, like the Flash, you're going to hear an interview with the devs at the end of the episode, but the kind of childlike Flash aesthetic of hand-drawn pixel art versus like actual pixels was intentional. They wanted it to have that kind of vibe. So when I keyed in on it, they were like, that's exactly what we were going for.
And that's just my art style.
Yeah. Right. And so, like, I think this is a really strong one also. Like, the platforming is a ton of fun. The 3 of us are all suckers for platform games. And it also helped that the devs were really kind and really nice and wanted to talk about the game. And, like, all of our number 1s in our top 3s, all of the devs were incredibly approachable, wanted to talk about their games, really wanted to get into the details. We were lucky enough to get interviews with all 3 of our number 1s in our top 3. I'm getting it.
You're getting it.
And I think there's something special about it. But this one particularly, like, it taught me a valuable lesson. It's natural to write off games based on what you see and prejudge stuff. And it gave me a moment to check that. And now I'm going to do my best to not do that anymore because this game really surprised me. And like the fact that there are Mega Man style bosses, but you're not getting Mega Man style abilities, you're getting traversal abilities and not like powers for weaknesses of the other bosses. It's taking something known and turning it on its head. And yeah, I'm with you, Sarah. I think this is an incredible game and I'm really excited for what the full game will be like because just the taste of it was really addicting.
It had the nice, huge amount of spikes that you expect from a heavy precision platformer with a lot more forgiveness and whimsy.
Absolutely. I cannot say that at any other PAX I've ever gone back to a game to play it multiple times. Yeah. I did with this one.
We were late to an appointment because I needed to beat that boss.
You did. It's so addicting, right? You're like, I know I can get him. I've got his patterns. I just need to get it. And then you get it, and it's so rewarding.
And I got it.
Alrighty. My number 1 game is so Imagine if your favorite animal-led 80s cartoon had its own 2D Metroidvania video game, and then I present to you Gnaw, Gnaw, from Red Start Interactive, and that is that game. Gnaw is one of the games that we got an email about that I saw Metroidvania and dinosaurs, and without reading the rest of the email said, here's our times, let's do an appointment, because that's all I needed to sell me on this game. I was not disappointed. We have a great interview with the art director, I believe. It's one of those games that you see and go, I hope it's as good as it looks, and it's better. You play as Mac Ripley. Yes, that's this dinosaur's name. The tagline is he's got short arms and a big heart and dreams of becoming something more. You wake up in an underground lab as this dinosaur. The first thing you do is find your leather coat, which he then immediately puts on, and it's actual armor for in the game. And you set off on this adventure, chomping your way through enemies to find out what's happening in New Dino City. It's got this mix of noir, the humor and art of a Ninja Turtles or something of that like. The gameplay is really tight. There's platforming. It's an explorable environments. You find a hidden wall basically the minute you start the game. If you go left, which you should always go left before going right.
Always.
Yeah, yes. Always. The charm is dripping. The dialogue is great. I basically turned to John and said, this is giving me like Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, Ninja Turtles vibes. And they basically said that's exactly what they were going for, of these 80s/90s animal-led cartoons, but in video game form.
And they always had bad video game adaptations, so this is making up for something.
Yeah. The narrative is something's happening to the mammals in the city, and the dinosaurs are trying to figure out what's going on. I was just instantly hooked. I loved it so much. This is supposedly coming out next year, though we don't have a firm date. We talk about that in the interview, but like, I don't need more Metroidvanias to play. I'm up to my eyeballs at Metroidvanias. But that said, this game was so cool and so fun and had that kind of indescribable charm that like games that I know I'm going to love have, that there's no way it couldn't be number one on my list. There is a demo available on Steam as we speak, where you get to play the beginning of the game. I highly recommend you go check it out, but it is definitely this kind of dinosaurs with attitude style game that really kind of lives up to everything that I had seen of it. I'm excited to play it. John said in the interview that it's about, they're thinking 15 to 20 hours lengthwise, but that's a rough estimate. They don't really know yet. But that's kind of the vibe they're going for. Like, not too long, but not too short, this expansive world to explore. So, yeah, Gnaw, without a doubt, easily one of the best games I played all weekend and my number one for PAX East 2026.
We often, when we showcase the games that we like to showcase and talk about the games we like to talk about, we usually will bring up new and intriguing experiences, wild ways of looking at traditional modes or what have you. But sometimes all a game needs to be is just really fucking good. And not it looks good. It plays well. All of these pieces is kind of it's a top of the class across the board, certainly from the demo that we played, and I see no reason why it won't carry that through to the end. So given that we usually are like, oh, well, this is such a wild thing, whatever else. Nah, is just really good. Check it out.
And it's dinosaurs.
It's a really good game, and it's got dinosaurs.
If I ever outgrow my childhood whimsy of dinosaurs, you know that it's not actually me and I've been body swapped, because I will never, ever run out of enthusiasm for dinosaurs. Ever.
I'm legally not allowed to, so.
Well, that's true, yeah. I mean, given your name and state.
Every one of my nibblings goes, we know, Aunt Sarah, your favorite dinosaur is a Triceratops because your name is in it.
I have a dinosaur skull tattoo. I have to be committed.
Yes, commit to the bit, which is basically the tagline for this podcast.
More or less, yeah.
This PAX East, like I said, while it felt lighter in like the variety and scope of games, felt richer in friendship and discovery, and all in all, a great time. All of us saw a ton more games beyond this. Please reach out to us on socials or in the Discord if you want to talk more about the other games you saw. There's tons of great other content by other creators that we're friends who have already, by the time you're hearing this, released their recaps. So go check those out as well. Before I forget, I want to thank our intrepid associate producer, Sarah Moonen, for joining us yet again. These conventions happen because of you. Like, we do our fair share of work, but when we're on the ground running, trying to get to interviews, trying to stay on top of stuff, trying to discover stuff, and like Discovery, you lead a lot of it. You play more games than I think Jen and I combined most of the time.
I go into gremlin mode and ignore people and play games, and then I surface and say, hey, look what I found.
Yeah,
basically.
We shake hands and hand out business cards while also playing games. You just say, shh, I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
I do that.
So this wouldn't happen without you. So thank you so much for contributing to both the trips and then, of course, these episodes as we wrap them up.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Amongst all of the cool games and the great interviews that are going to be at the end of this, we mentioned it briefly, but there's also going to be an interview with folks from the Black & Gaming Foundation, which we didn't really get a chance to talk too deeply about that, but I think it's just as important. They are a 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on advancing Black leadership, innovation, and opportunity in gaming. Kind of to that point of this felt like a slightly different kind of PAX East, but was no less rich with experiences and people. Well, if you don't have as big of studios coming in, that's a great opportunity for underserved voices to get a chance on the grand stage. And I, for one, applaud that, love that, and look forward to what folks at Big, as well as so many other studios, so many other places, can do with a little bit of extra breathing room. With that, we put it to you, listener. Did you go to PAX East this year? Have you been checking out any of the demos that have been going on? Have you heard about any of these games that we were extolling? Are you mad at us for forgetting some of the other games that we played? Don't worry, there's plenty of them, and there's plenty out there. And the ones that we forgot, well, that's where you come in. Let us know which ones we should be checking out. Let us know what games are worth getting excited over, because we want to get excited about these games. Get in touch with us. Reach out. There's so many ways to find us. We are Fun and Games Pod on all social media that we are currently active upon, which as of this episode is Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you thought of previous episodes, what you'd like us to talk about, and who you'd like us to talk with on future episodes. You can visit certainpov.com and find not only other fantastic Certain POV podcasts, but also a permanent invite link to our Discord server, where a lot of these discussions continue and a lot of these games are talked about. We'd love to see you there. If you like what Matt, Sarah, and I are doing and have the means or desire to support us, because we do pay out of our own pockets to go to conventions, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/funandgamespod. There is a free tier, so if you just want a one-stop shop of all the things that Matt and I are working on, access the RSS feed, and the ability to vote on our polls, like what our next console retrospective episode is going to be about, you can do it there. But we appreciate all of our patrons and want to shout out those up on the high scoreboard. Today, the high scoreboard is Alex Lavelle, Case Aiken, Daniel Nyden, Sean Bowen, Film It Yourself, Dave Jackson, Tales from the Backlog, Alejandro Alves, Curly Bright, and Chris Copleen. Thank you so much for your support. Please enter your initials. They will be drawn out of a raffle at the end of the weekend. You should also leave your email address. Don't worry, we're not going to sell it for any kind of advertising or anything. That's just to get in touch with you for the prize. What's the prize? Don't worry about it. Don't you like winning things at conventions?
We did bury the lead. Sarah and I both won stuff at this convention as well. So clearly the Moonen luck is rubbing off on me a little bit.
I love winning things at conventions.
Oh, we know. We are still going to someday have a long-form Atari interview, which I think is one of the first interview episodes you will be also on with us to talk to folks, because you are the reason we are friends with folks at Atari, basically.
I am part of the Atari lore officially.
Officially. Which means this podcast is too. Also, if you want to interact with us and you don't have the means to support us financially through the Patreon and you're already a member of the free tier or not, you can also go to your podcast platform of choice and rate and review the podcast. It really helps us break through the algorithm and get into new ears and more folks to listen and find the podcast. All it takes is a couple words. It's really quick. It's really easy, less than a couple minutes. And it really is the best way to help not only us, but any independent podcast that you listen to. So please considering rating and reviewing if you have a moment.
Whether you have been to countless PAXs, whether you went to just PAX East, whether you've been curious about everything, whether you just really want to check out Fractured Blooms, or whether this is your first episode of Fun and Games, thank you so much for being here. We couldn't do this without you. This is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm Maddie K. Stormageddon.
And I'm Sarah Moonen.
And happy gaming.
All right, we're at PAX East 2026. I'm here with our associate producer, Sarah Moonen. I'm,
Hey,
of course,
guys.
Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. And we're with Sasha, who works for Alpine Trainer, which is a whole snowboarding apparatus for playing video games. And so my first question about Alpine Trainer is very basically why?
How you doing, guys? So why? Because we started this, actually the name will give it out. We started this project as an exercise machine for snowboarders and for boarders, for skaters, so that they can practice off-season. However, we figured out very quickly that traditional exercise is very boring. And we started to think about how can we actually connect it to video games so that people have more fun. Eventually, we turned it into a large joystick, if you think about it, that can be played with any off-the-shelf PC games. So the idea is to merge gaming and physical activity so that people can actually feel the movements in the turns when they're playing the game, stay a little bit fitter, a little bit healthier, exercise while they're doing it, and yeah.
I can tell you, having just jumped on the Alpine Trainer, my calves are on fire from doing from playing the game. We were playing a downhill skiing or downhill snowboarding game, which makes a whole lot of sense for what I was doing and how I felt. But you mentioned that this can be played on any PC game. Talk to me about how the controls and how you think about that.
Correct. So the device itself has a multi-directional board. It has a resistance underneath, and that substitutes the left stick of an Xbox controller. And an Xbox controller is overlaid on top of it, so all the tricks, you do it like regular kind of tricks with the Xbox controller. You can connect it as a controller to any off-the-shelf PC game. You know, I tried Motorfest before. I have a surfing game. Tony Hawk, obviously, and it's like one of the prime candidates. Steep, Riders Republic. I mean, there's no end. There's a lot of games you can play on it, but it doesn't require any extra tweaking. You just plug it in, plug and play.
Yeah, as somebody who's used a lot of video game exercise peripherals, I can say that this one definitely felt like the peripheral was the focus, right? Like clearly it was an exercise machine. It was smooth. It was interesting, even more so than like, Ring Fit Adventures or Wii Fit or things like that. Are people primarily using this for the snowboarding, or are they primarily using it for the video gaming, or you're trying to combine those worlds?
So they're using it for combining both worlds. Gamers use it. It's a very nice gaming machine, and so people don't think about it right away as, playing, for example, Motorfest, riding a motorcycle game on it, but it's actually fun if you want to combine exercise with gaming. Primarily because it looks like a board, the platform, and it kind of people think about it right away. Oh, it's a skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing type simulator, which is the idea originally, but they can expand it to any type of games. And if you want to combine it with fitness, it's a great workout activity.
My question is, when designing something like this, knowing that there have been tons of motion control peripherals in the past, and those all have their challenges, what was the biggest challenge making this feel accurate and authentic? Like, what were some of the hurdles in creating this machine?
Obviously you have like Wii and other types of gaming, which are also marketed as exercise type machines. We wanted to make it as a real movement. So it's actually multi-dimensional platform movement that replicates the direction and rotation of board and action sports, as opposed to Wii, where you kind of like stand on something and just maybe like step on it or whatever. So this actually, you feel the motion in every move. I mean, you can probably...
Yeah, you really do. And it was smooth. There was more movement to it than anything I've ever done.
And if it's not clear, the 40-plus-year-old, did not get on the board. Sarah did. Just for our audio listeners, so they understand. There'll be video accompaniment by the time you've heard this. What's the easiest way for folks to get access to this?
So at this point, you experienced one of the unique ones. There's only 2 in the world that we made so far.
Wow.
Yes, and you can please follow us on Instagram and TikTok. The handle is @Alpine Trainer. We are thinking about launching a Kickstarter campaign. If you'd like to participate in it, please reach out to us and you'll become one of the first owners of this unique machine.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. It looks fun as hell as long as I'm not the one on the board.
I had a great time.
Like, I loved the Rock Band games back in the day, and trying to play Xbox 360 games with the guitar controller. Like, I would love to see someone try and play, I don't know, Zelda or Dark Souls or something with this and use the board as the movement while they're fighting stuff.
So we had a guy yesterday who wanted to play Halo, and he had a great time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because it's the first, person shooter game. You kind of, see yourself turning, right? So it's the same kind of turn movements. He was like turning on the board and controlling the left and right exercising at the same time with resistance.
Yeah.
And he had a great time playing the game.
I can't wait to see the Games Done Quick run of something ridiculous that they try to run.
We are currently at the Vania Games booth, and we just got done playing Crystalmancers, a roguelike block placing, totally not Tetris, but loads of fun kind of dungeon crawling game. And we are here with Jack Perkins.
Yeah, this is Jack. It's nice to meet everyone.
So, Sarah, you just got done playing the game. What were you thinking on it?
I want to put things where they belong and make them go away. It's very satisfying.
I know. See, that's one of the core gameplay mechanics that we really wanted to build around is like being able to actually place blocks under other blocks. And so originally it was kind of a bug in the game, and we turned it into a feature because people felt that it was really satisfying being able to like fill in gaps perfectly. And so that was one of those rare cases where it's like a bug really does turn into a feature that people love.
That's really cool that that's how that happened.
Yeah.
The first level you play, you don't really see that as much. And I was like, this is okay, I'm having fun. And then the second level where you really got to play with how do you make these holes into something amazing, I was like, oh, this is something special.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, Jack, if you wanted to give the elevator pitch, what can you tell our listeners about Crystalmancers?
So Crystalmancers is a lot like the block stacking puzzle games you've played in the past. I'm sure a couple come to mind. The difference is that we really wanted to put a roguelike twist on the game, and we took a lot of inspiration from deck builders like Balatro, Slay the Spire. We found a way to make it so that the pieces in your arsenal that you would normally use in like any puzzle game kind of turn into your deck. Your deck only has 7 cards because you only got 7 pieces, but there's a lot you can do with that. And so we let players customize the shapes of their pieces, what each piece does whenever you're using them. We let you get items that make your pieces do different things, to let you score points in different ways. So we really wanted to kind of approach like the die-hard puzzle game fans that like games like this and give them like a twist on that. But we also wanted to bring that kind of like crazy feeling of clearing as many lines as you can to the more casual audiences as well that are really into like the roguelike scene.
I would say you've accomplished that.
Well, that means a lot. Thank you. That's really nice to hear. Yeah.
Not allowed to play Balatro at night because I play it into my dreams.
You should see my save file on my phone. Yeah.
Absolutely. But this is the same kind of thing, I think. And, the traditional Tetris effect that, keeps you going. This is going to be a problem. And there's really something fun about getting to mess with the Tetris pieces. We know them so well. They feel like old friends. I added an extra to one of my Z pieces and was like, oh, what do we do with her now?
I know. Suddenly, it's like a whole new person, right? Like, you can turn pieces that, like, if you played other games, that it's like you see it and you go, oh, come on, like this one again. And suddenly you can make it smaller, bigger. You can really, like, play around with it. And I know that like, some of, like, the really hardcore people who really like those puzzle games are going to have issues with, like, well, this isn't like the purest experience, but that's not really what we wanted to make. We wanted to make something that's like more fun and more casual, right?
And given that it is a turn-based experience, you can get those like high-level moves of how you get this to fit and where you get this to go with time to think about it. In that sense of a roguelike, that Slay the Spire, you see what turns ahead, is very much like Tetris where you know what the next piece is going to be. They've been doing that in the arcades for a long time.
Yeah.
This is just an extension. And I think some of my favorite roguelikes are ones that take a familiar idea, a familiar thing to get you in. Balatro is successful because we know poker hands. This, we recognize the Tetraminos, and then where can we play from there?
I mean, my dad plays Balatro, right?
Yeah.
He's never played a video game other than Golden Tee on the old arcade cabinets in his life, and I bought him Balatro, and he loved it. Like, it's just that concept of taking something novel that, like, the real-world experience that everyone has with it, and you can, like, kind of make something that's a little more complicated, much more approachable, because that knowledge is already, like, built into these people, right? Like, people know how to play poker. People know how to play Tetris, Block Blast. One of the really important things, I don't want anyone to take Crystalmancers seriously as like a competitive scene, right? Like, I'm sure there'll be speedrunners, and I'm really excited to see stuff like that.
Yes.
But what I ultimately want is for people, I want this game to get people more interested in other games like it in these genres. I want people to get really good at Crystalmancers and then go, oh, I should go play Tetris. Like, this is getting really satisfying. Or I want them to go, oh, I should go play Block Blast. And I know tons of people that have done just that, just from playing the demo. They're like, dude, now I'm playing Tetris on my phone. And so, like, it's really, really cool to see that, like, it's kind of building out the medium as well. Like, people are really, really getting into different types of projects. And I feel like that's what game dev's all about.
Agreed, yeah. Gaming begets gaming.
Yeah.
That's the brilliant part.
Exactly. So what's the plan for the game? How big is it going to be? When are you thinking of releasing?
So our base plan right now, we have 5 bosses made for the game. Everybody who's at PAX got to fight one. That's Varkalix. I think I said that right, Austin. It's a tough to pronounce one, but he's our titular red dragon. We've got a couple of other bosses in the works. We have, I believe, roughly 20 unique enemies right now.
Nice.
Our roadmap right now is we spent the last year really honing in on the core engine of the game and making sure that the logic engine worked the way we wanted it to work.
You want it to feel fun to play before you...
And so now, it used to take us a week to put an item in the game. Now it takes us a day.
Amazing.
So our goal is to have this game launched in early access by March of next year. So March 2027 is when we're shooting for. We're a small team, so please bear with us.
Well, this is also this is your first convention appearance.
This is our first convention appearance. This is our first joint game that we are planning to release publicly. Both me and Austin of Vania Games, we founded it together because neither of us could get jobs in the AAA gaming industry. And we got mad, and we founded a game studio.
I mean, no one can hold a job in the AAA gaming industry these days.
Yeah,
so.
we used to work for Blizzard, but, Phil Spencer had something to say about that. So.
Well, now we start our own with dragons and Tetraminos.
Yes, we're making it happen,
Saying we all get to benefit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really happy things shook out the way they shook out because it's really gratifying to see people play a project that we've had holed up in our basement for 2 years now. And we've just been, kind of dreading this day while also being excited for it and being like, what are people going to think? And it's just the reception's been amazing. So many nice media people like you guys have been coming by, and we really didn't expect this. So it's been really, really cool to see what people think, and we're excited to have people with us on this journey.
Well, for our outlet, Fun and Games, we're very big on the idea that passion drives fun, drives games,
I
drives
couldn't agree
innovation.
more. Yeah.
And so even coming by here on a friend's recommendation and feeling your enjoyment and passion for this project is already infectious, and then the game is also fun and good, and that is something that can never be discounted, can never be underestimated.
Oh, you're making me blush. Come on. That's
good.
Thank you.
Jack, thank you so much for being here, sharing Crystalmancers with us, and taking a few minutes to chat with us.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Is there a Steam page already that our listeners can check out to wishlist the game?
Yes. If you go to Crystalmancers, all one word, on Steam, you can absolutely go wishlist it right now. Every single one counts. We'd love to get the game in the hands of a publisher, and we can really use those wish lists to kind of sway them in our direction. So Crystalmancers, all one word. We should be the only thing that comes up. You can Google us, too.
We are currently at the Total Mayhem Games booth. Sarah and I just got done playing a little bit of We Were Here Tomorrow, a co-op puzzler, and, well, we didn't finish it, but we certainly had a lot of fun, and we are here with Martine from the team. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Hey, it's my pleasure to chat today.
What can you tell our listeners about We Were Here as a series and We Were Here Tomorrow as an entry?
We Were Here is a co-op series that we've been making since 2017. First game was a student project that kind of blew up, and that led to a second game, and we've just sort of grown from there. We Were Here Tomorrow is a little bit different from the previous games in the series. It's a bit of a standalone, though it is connected to the previous games, but the main difference is what you guys were doing today, which is playing with the abilities. So the abilities, all of our games in the past have been sort of like puzzle, hallway, puzzle, hallway, puzzle, hallway, right?
Yeah,
and the abilities allow us to make those hallways into traversal challenges. So it's a co-op adventure for two people. You're separated for a lot of the time, and you just have to share information and communicate effectively to solve puzzles.
Fantastic. Now, the way that the co-op works, is it something that's sort of a split screen, or is it more of an online kind of idea where a little bit of a blind co-op?
No, I appreciate that lead-in. Yeah. So it is a online co-op. You are playing on separate devices, but we are cross-platform compatible on day one. So it's on Steam, it's on PlayStation, it's on Xbox. And so if you have a computer and your partner has an Xbox or a PlayStation, then you guys can still play together.
Well, that's the way we would be playing it then.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a really great time playing just now. As you might have been listening to us make jokes the whole time, but we play a lot of co-op platformers together and co-op games in general. And I think that we have a pretty good lexicon of how we communicate with each other. I'm curious, on the show floor, how have you been seeing people who come to the booth figure out the communication element of this and get through the puzzles?
We've seen basically when people talk, they do pretty well in the demo. The demo takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play through.
Okay.
But we do have a time demo, so because we're turning over a lot of people, we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to play. We see that most people make it about halfway through in the 15 minutes that we give them. But we did have one couple that were really dedicated We Were Here players, and they had been watching other people play, and so they got in there, they got all the way through the demo in 15 minutes, and I was very proud of them. But they knew what they were doing. They were communicating. Sometimes people don't make it through the first door because they don't talk to each other.
Yeah, okay. Well, and that certainly answers something for me. You said that this was a little more of a standalone title, but if people have been playing We Were Here titles before, which I imagine that sort of co-op puzzle was a little more pull this lever, hold this button, versus where I had like a sticky grappling hook and Sarah had,
I had a box.
You could create boxes and blocks. You know, if you're able to carry that sort of puzzle design, I suppose, from what you know from previous titles to this one.
Yes, we have like the pull this lever, push that button, but those are also in previous We Were Here games. Like you said, the abilities weren't. But We Were Here is also really famous for cerebral puzzles.
Okay.
It's like, hey, I'm seeing these symbols and you need them to complete this like input that you have, or like I've got a chessboard and you've got pieces to move, or I'm inside of a D12 die and moving between different dimensions, and like I'm seeing things and you're seeing things, and we got to share information effectively to think our way through it, right? Which is the part of this that you didn't get to, right? Like that's right at the very end.
Yeah, no, unfortunately we did glitch a little bit in the middle of this, but the game's in development and this is what convention floors are for. So it sounds a lot more like an escape room.
Yeah, a little bit like an escape room. I would say the other thing is, even before getting to that, we still had like, come over here. I think your sticky will do that.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling a lever. What did it do? Go look, go find out, because I have to stay here pulling this lever.
Could either of us pull the lever, or do you have to hold the lever because I have to sticky something later, or vice versa?
Yeah, very much so. We like to think of this as Portal meets Escape the Room, right? So you got the traversal challenges, you got the sort of like physics type stuff going on, and then you've got the Escape the Room, share information, like figure it out, cerebral stuff.
I would also add, it also has that like split fiction and It Takes Two vibe to it too, where you have different powers now in this version that you have to be able to do, because you can't just have one person solve all the puzzles and say, hey, come on, catch up.
And the other one's the passenger. Yeah, it more locks in a good asymmetric co-op experience.
That is exactly how we describe it internally. Asymmetry is like one of our pillars.
Very cool, yeah. And I imagine adding in the abilities raises the possibility of new puzzles, but it also pulls in the complication of, okay, we've got to balance out the workload here, or where those things land.
So our abilities are very sandboxy, as you may have noticed. You know, you can build a box anywhere and like just stand on it and do a thing.
I was just having fun sticking stuff places.
Yeah, you would be surprised at how difficult level
helmet
design can be in a situation like that, you know, like.
And it's great too in those moments where this is our first time playing a We Were Here game and trying to figure out those puzzles. It was kind of nice, for Sarah to go, I made a block, and I figured out if I stick this to Sarah, can I pull her? Yes, I can. And it's a nice bit of exploration and joy without any kind of, certainly in the demo, it didn't seem like there's any kind of time limit or an impending danger. You can take your time just solving it.
Yeah, we've made a few puzzles over the years that do have time limits. In We Were Here Forever, we've got what I like to refer to as Willy Wonka's Mad Potion Factory, and that's got a time limit on it.
Okay.
But, those are never my favorite puzzles, because that sense of urgency, along with the natural frustration that you get from puzzling.
Yeah.
Favorite puzzle. But we don't really have many time-based puzzles in our games in general, yeah.
Yeah, when we were first talking about this before, Sarah and I sat down and we were hearing the description, I was like, okay, it's a little bit split fiction and a little bit keep talking and no one explodes, which is that back and forth, whatever blindness. But that escape rooms, they throw in that timing element to increase the tension or to get that thrill for those that enjoy it. But it's nice that this is more on the idea of take your time, explore, enjoy the puzzle-solving experience.
100%. I really hope people do,
Very cool. So what is the current timeline on the game?
It'll be releasing later this year, which is all I can say about that for sure. But it will be out here in 2026.
And it is going to be simultaneous release for Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation?
Yes, 100%.
Fantastic. Are there currently any demos out or any way our listeners could check out the game?
Yeah, so I'll plug my pluggables.
Please.
You can find us by looking up the We Were Here series on Steam or Epic, PlayStation or Xbox, and we also have some of the older games on Switch at the moment. You can also find us on our socials, We Were Here Games, Total Mayhem Games, We Were Here Games on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, which is now called X. There will be a demo coming out on Steam. This demo that you've played today will be out on Steam in the not too distant future.
And people can keep an eye out for that. And if you're excited, you can check out some of the previous We Were Here games. Those are on all the platforms as aforementioned. Martine, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much.
We are chatting with Lindsay, the CEO of Playground Productions. Lindsay, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for playing the game.
We are so excited. I think all of us here can't contain ourselves. I got to meet a celebrity earlier. Pablo is here. The Pablo is incredible.
The greatest of all time.
The greatest of all time. And so tell us a little bit about Playground and this want to bring back Backyard Baseball?
Yeah, so my experience as a CEO is a little bit different than maybe the other gaming companies here, but my background is as an elementary school teacher. So I taught second grade for 8 years, and I'd studied film and animation and always wanted to do children's and family entertainment, but I loved teaching so much. And during the pandemic, I really wanted there to be good games for my students. And they were all at home, and as a board teacher would do, I'm recommending different good games, good value games for them because they were little kids and they were playing a lot of shooters. And I couldn't get Backyard out of my head. And Backyard was nowhere to be found. So of course, like all the board teachers would do, I hired a private investigator, pretended to be Nancy Drew, and found the rights to the brand. And that's 2 years ago. And so now we've been bringing Backyard back, and I have an incredible team of indie developers with Megacat Studios and Playground Productions. So
That's incredible.
it's crazy, but I think that the expression of if you can't teach, I'm like, if you want to do everything, those are our teachers.
Well, this is the dream too, right? Growing up playing games that you love and then seeing that there's a hole in the market that they're not around. Well, what if I brought that back? What if, and like we were told while we were waiting in line to play the game that all of the original games are on Steam now, which is like, they haven't been available that wide on PC in many, many years. And so not only is there clear care for remaking, revitalizing this property, but also it seems important to you to also give back access to what we lost.
I really, truly am just so grateful to the original fans who grew up to be impressive people doing amazing things, because the original fans helped to bring the whole game back. When I acquired the rights to this, it was just a name. It was just the brand. There wasn't a box of code or anything. It was just the name. And the original fans said, you don't have source code, no problem. We're going to hack, CD-ROM hack and reverse engineer to bring back these old games, no source code required. And they helped me to get this back to the market on all the modern devices. And it really put us on the map, and I'm so grateful. The Reddit community, I found the hackers, and people just really wanted to preserve it.
Backyard community almost, as far as getting all those things back.
It's amazing. It's truly like these backyard kids who love this game, they just really wanted to bring back a really good, wholesome, fun game. And it has allowed us to do everything we're doing now, which is having an entirely new game that is going to be on all major consoles and Mac and PC. They were able to help us to do that.
Yeah, because it's just as important of a thing, like you were saying. A lot of your kids, they're playing shooters, they're playing things like that. And there is all sorts of arguments to be made for the way that develops hand-eye coordination, and that sort of development is wonderful, but you can get that just as much by pitching and doing home run derby and having those in other contexts. And so it's not a thing of okay, we need educational software, solve algebra. But, you make it fun and you are developing skills as well.
I turned on Crazy Pitch and it gave my eye-hand coordination, which I think is usually pretty good, a run for its money.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because a huge part of what we wanted to do with these games was, and it's probably the hardest thing about building this new game, our original fans are millennials, and they are true gamers by this point. They have some years of experience playing, and they have been asking, with all of our retro titles, can we make it harder? Can you make it more challenging? And I said, okay, let's do that. So there is always going to be the true core of the game, which is making sure that we have the most accessible sports game on the market, which any kid can come and play, or somebody who's never gamed before is going to be able to have a great experience. But if you want a hard experience, go and play Crazy Pitch without a swing spot, and let me tell you, you're going to have a hard experience.
So I'm curious, we got to play the exhibition essentially on the demo, but the full game comes out this summer, and there's a league and other things. What can you tell us about some of the other game modes that people can expect to experience when they play this game?
I mean, I've been thinking about this for 29 years since the original game released. But there's parts of the game that people always loved, which are like the league mode and being able to have pickup games and batting practice. We've also kind of one-upped that to say, what have the fans been asking for forever? Well, they wanted to play against their friends. They've wanted to play against their families. Some of the original fans now have kids. They want to play as a family. That, to me, is a really exciting new piece of this game. And we really want it to be something that you can co-op together and just sit and have a great experience. And, You know, when you talk about Backyard, nobody talks about like how good they were. They'll talk about the characters, the charm, the humor. We have one-upped that to a whole new level because we have over 4,000 animations in this game that are unique to how the players walk up and how they celebrate and how they fall and how they do all sorts of funny things that kids might do in the backyard.
Speaking of the different characters, there's a lot of representation in what we just saw in the demo too. Talk to me about how you think about that.
Well, I think it's a huge reason why I was drawn to these games in 1997. I was a sporty little girl, and this was the most accessible and diverse series that ever happened 29 years ago. And it's still that way, which says a lot more about where our industry is at and that there hasn't been a more diverse game in all of that time. But 15 boys, 15 girls, equal playing ability. Our best player doesn't speak English, although there's maybe he learned it in school and the Easter egg, but doesn't speak English. Our best pitcher is in a wheelchair. Our best hitter, power hitter, is a strong black girl in the game. The representation really matters, and for somebody like me who played when I was a little girl, I'm very little, as you can't tell from this podcast, but I played backyard football, and I immediately signed up to play flag football because of this game. I was like, oh, look at all the girls. They're amazing in this game. And it means something. So we're excited to be able to bring this back.
When you're that age, you are as good as you think you are in
Absolutely.
so many ways. And so getting to see that and know that you're as good at that in the game, you take it to real life, and maybe you stick with it, maybe you don't, but you get to try, you get to experience, and that's so crucial at that part of your life.
You know, I don't know if this is lore or not, but I choose to believe it because I really like it. So of the 30 characters, their interests are so specific, and their skills, nobody can look at a character and go, oh, I bet that's the good player, or they like this or that. I heard that the original development team picked out of a hat to figure out their stats and what they were like, and I choose to believe that because I think that's the coolest way to actually like decide which character is going to be the best and which character is going to be artsy and which character is going to be really into sports or science. I just loved that because you can't judge any book by its cover.
We don't need to justify it, we simply are.
Yes, I love that.
Amazing.
So you mentioned online multiplayer. Of course, this is coming out on every platform, which is so incredible. What are the multiplayer expectations? Is there cross-platform online? What are the platforms like?
These are great questions that I can't answer yet.
No worries.
But, you know,
Totally.
these are secrets, my secret weapon.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm really excited about that you got to do today is this shows off multiplayer co-op. It shows off the night mode for the game, which just to me rings so nostalgic, even though it wasn't a part of the original. It reminds me of the Sandlot when the fireworks go. It reminds me of every night after dinner as a little kid in the summertime when you finish your dinner really fast to get back outside to play. And I just love that, and then of course the home run derby mode is not home run derby, it's backyard derby. And like you said, there's some different types of pitches in there, and I even like what you said about having this be like in the kids' imagination a little bit. Like if you think you can do it, you can. Right. You'll notice like those are pitches that are very in the mind of a kid.
Yeah.
I thought I could throw a fireball as a kid.
Oh yeah.
So
of course.
If you are a kid and you think you could throw a fireball, you're going to throw a fireball in that thing.
Yeah. One of those pitches literally froze in midair, waited,
right.
and then came to me, and that's what you feel when you went too early.
Right.
And it must have frozen right in midair.
Exactly. I think that's such a great way of thinking about the backyard games is what is in a kid's imagination. I'll never forget, I had this cousin come over, and we played baseball in our backyard, and he hit it over the fence, and I thought this went to like a different town. Like, I genuinely was like, this ball
is gone.
Like, where did it go?
Forever.
It went, it like must have gone to the town over. And that's how you think as a kid. And I think that lends to the humor of this game and how you can kind of imagine all the fun power-ups and
it's a sincere exaggeration.
Exactly. That's a great way of saying it.
Well, I love the mention of the fantasy of it because while there's humor in the kids taking it like as light as it is, the announcer taking it so seriously, like the commentating a major league game adds to that humor, right? Because it's not serious, but it's also so serious. It's the most serious thing you've ever done.
I wouldn't want to see that kid in a dark alley. I wouldn't want to see him in a light alley either.
Allie's scary. I am Vinny the Gooch. So, yes.
Oh yeah, amazing.
And
Love
I can
it.
do a good Sunny Day impression too, but I'm not her in the game. But hardy hi ho, sports fans.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for taking
you.
the time to chat with us. So the game comes out on July 9th.
July 9th.
On all platforms,
Yep.
PC, Mac, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, both old and new platforms.
Yes.
Really exciting. Thank you for taking the time and for resurrecting our childhood.
Oh, well, thank you guys for coming back to it, because now we get to have this backyard here to stay. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. So
amazing.
Thank you guys.
We are at the Cubicorn Games booth with Matt having just played through the demo. All three of us, Matt, Sarah, and I, have played through Super Cucumber, the adorable, delightful puzzle platformer that's got a little bit of everything. You're a super-powered aardvark, and it's so delightful. So, Dustin and Lorraine, thank you so much for taking a little time to chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for liking the game.
No, absolutely. Sarah tried this out on Thursday and has been telling us about it, and so dragged us each here once per day.
And I think it was the first one to beat the third boss of the weekend.
Yeah, this year for sure. And again, in the minority, I think we had 3 people total the whole weekend.
It's been 3.
Yeah, or well, four counting you. Yeah, so two not in this current group, 2 other people. So yeah, you're crushing it.
So what can you tell our listeners about the game?
Super Cucumber, I've been describing it to people as kind of a 2D action platformer inspired by fighting games. You're not wrong, there is a ton of puzzly stuff in it, and in fact, as we're testing now, that's kind of one of the things we're balancing in the last 20% of the game is kind of how hard we want to push you cerebrally in addition to pushing the thumbs or whatever. Kind of the guiding principle for me, at least, to doing more of the platform design when we started the project was I like 90s 16-bit stuff. So I want to take little bits of Capcom, Mega Man, Street Fighter, things like that. Mega Man X was that's one of my forever games. I play that thing probably once a year. I was looking at that and deciding what we wanted to take, what we kind of want to leave behind. I feel like that game is kind of split pretty evenly between platforming and combat. And I wanted to take some of the platforming elements of that, turn the platforming part way up, and any of the combat part we have left, kind of make it intrinsic to the platforming as opposed to a thing that's a little more separate from it.
Something interesting about the game design and the look of the game is that first glance, it looks like a kind of simple Flash game. It's got that vibe. I grew up in that era. And so I looked at it and went, oh, that looks cute, and kind of moved on. It wasn't until I got hands-on and spoke to Sarah that I was like, oh, it has that vibe, but there's more underneath the hood there. Was that always the intent, to kind of have this super cute aesthetic, but then kind of surprise with the detailed and in-depth platforming?
I don't think that was necessarily intentional. I do all of our art, and this is just kind of how I draw. So that's on me for doing that deception. We wanted to focus specifically on hand-drawn animations. So it's not there's some amount of sprite work in the tile sets of the background, but all the animations I do by hand in a very traditional kind of sense. It's just because I'm the one doing the art that it looks very cute, and I like really silly things, so that's how that happened.
And I can speak a little bit to that too, because as Lauren's describing, kind of initially that was definitely the case. It was more of a happy accident than anything, of that's the way her art style is. And I did insist, we talked about it a lot as we were getting going on games in general. I was I do want to do more, I'd call them quote unquote practical effects in video games. I want to go minimal to no in-engine particle effects, and definitely no stretch and squash, algorithmic animation. That's just a thing for me. I don't like how that stuff looks that much. So her art style lends itself really well, I think, to being able to churn out hand animation that we can manage to accomplish as a team of 2 people. But then when we have kind of ran into that, right, of how the game does look probably a little more cute and inviting than maybe the controls are, that has informed my design in terms of things like checkpointing and stuff like that too, because we're really trying to thread a needle at this point between I want the game to be complicated enough that people who are really into these things will be really excited to keep playing it.
They'll get satisfied by the challenge.
But simple enough and unpunishing enough, at least moment to moment, that if you've kind of just played Mario and then you try this, you might face tank it at a certain jump 5 or 6 times, but each of those resets is only 20 to 30 seconds, and then you try it again and eventually you figure it out. And so I after the fact, I guess I've kind of backfilled that philosophy of we're doing our best to thread the needle between being super engaging for hardcore people, but approachable enough that I'd hope for a lot of people this might be your first precision platformer.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Lorraine just while watching Matt play about how I think the checkpoints are done really smartly, because you do something hard, you don't have to do that thing again if you don't want to, and keep going. It actually makes the bosses even more punishing too. So the mech suit guy that only a couple of us have beaten, there is no checkpoint. It's just you got to get him. You got to 4-cycle him. You got to get through it all. You got to do it. Talk to me about the bosses and the boss design. I know we talked a little bit about scope creep and your development timeline.
When this project started off initially, I would say like scope-wise, we were like an inverse Cuphead almost. We were like, at that point when we first were making the project, this game would have been like 40 levels long with like 6 relatively simple boss fights. So it would have been platforming first, boss fights secondary. When we started really revisiting it and got like really ramped up to build it in like 2023 to today, looking back at the last game we had made, that was called Down the Drain, and that was a very boss-heavy roguelike shooter. That was my top of the list for what things we did right in that product. I was like, the boss fights are really, really great. Currently, our scope for Cucumber is that it doesn't meet that standard. Like, they're not that impressive, and so we got to turn that knob way up for this thing. So at that point, I had kind of personally like redesigned the third boss fight, the one that you played and really fell in love with. So that was mostly my ideas, and then since then, we expanded the scopes on all the other bosses, and then Lorraine has taken probably like the leading edge of building that kind of stuff, because she's probably pitched at least like 60 to 80% of the stuff in the boss fights after that fact, from like Towers 4 to 6. We've implemented most of that stuff, and it's been really good. So it's also been fun to like share that responsibility a little bit. Like, she's taken on a much bigger design role as we refactor the game, and I think it's coming together really well.
Yeah, our previous game, Down the Drain, I did more of the lead everything on. I built most of the systems in, I did all the art, Dustin still did all the music. We collabed a lot more strongly in the end to get it across the finish line, but I designed all of the bosses in that game and have kind of brought some of that here. I don't know if that's necessarily like, I wouldn't call that like my passion. I don't have like a passion for boss design, but it is really interesting to make like a bespoke encounter. Like, I don't have the wherewithal to do the like really specific level design that Dustin has. Like, he's been like hand building all the levels, and I tell him how much I hate them when I play them because they're hard. So I see the worst versions first. The bosses, like from 4 on, like he was saying, they're in a similar vein to that mech suit fight, and harder in different directions. So like they ramp up a lot.
Well, you did mention the influence from fighting games, and so very much having a boss fight, it is that like solo encounter, and you can build so much more into it with platforming, with a run and gun kind of style to it.
Yeah, for sure, and that's been a very much like speed and space kind of thing, like that, because that's really what that third boss fight is, right? It's just like a spacing check, just like, all right, can you be in the right spot at the right time? Like that's the whole thing if you really, really boil it down to its core elements. So
well, and it comes after the most heavily puzzled level that we had, right? So the mechanic of having blue switches that are timed and red switches that are not. So your brain is in puzzle mode. It's trying to get you through this, and then you're like, oh, by the way, super punishing boss, have fun.
Yeah, for sure. And again, those two things together, I like how it works in practice. That wasn't necessarily intended. It was more kind of the sequence of how we built the game, right? Because that one, again, my philosophy there was like, previously, our smaller scope would have been a much more simple thing. There's actually a little remnants of it in the scene that you can't see like while you play, but Lorraine had spec'd out way back in the day. It was going to be like a kind of like the first two, like a single screen fight where you'd basically he'd be fighting you with like spreadsheets and stuff. Like he'd be doing a PowerPoint presentation.
One like Dragon Quest menu fight in Kirby Superstar, but like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, which was a really good idea, and like I think we could have made a version of that was really awesome. But when we came back to scope stuff, I was like, all right, well, this needs to be more akin to like, it needs to be like a Mega Man X style thing, but even more intense because, like you said, because we've got the other death and checkpointing loop, and that's like the chunk of the game that came from Super Meat Boy, honestly. So like it just plays very interestingly with like, so we've got more Mega Man-y style bosses, but we've got like the one death and repeat thing from like the Meat Boy kind of thing. Because that part of the game, I'm glad where the balance is now, because I think like you said that it's punishing, but it does feel learnable and doable over time. But that was more a consequence of how I wanted the platforming parts of the game to work, of like needing that like really tight reset. I was like, if you ever see like a loading icon, that's too long between deaths. You get setback, start. It's got to be that quick.
Yeah, something I noticed while playing immediately is like obviously when you get new abilities, it does the Mega Man style, like you look at the book and then show the power. But what I love about it is, typically Mega Man, it's a weapon, whereas in this, excluding a few things, it's mostly traversal mechanics.
Yep.
And I love that dynamic of taking something expected and turning it on its head. And I only saw more of it as I played more of it in the platforming and other things. So it's clear that at least there's some classic design that's important, as well as some more modern stuff. Although I guess Meat Boy's not really modern anymore.
Sure.
Don't say that to me.
More modern than Mega Man X.
Right. But like, was it really important to like wear your heart on your sleeve, wear those influences? Because some people like try to like make it more subversive, but it's very clear that you want to pay homage to those things that came before in this game.
Oh yeah, I think we're in a really good spot where we're at right now. Because like you said, all that stuff you just described, I'm really happy to hear you say it because it's super intentional. My instinct is always to try to like, especially in gameplay stuff, you want to like tip your cap to those things of the past, but not be like married to them, right? Because like my example would be, I even forget the name of the game, unfortunately, but the first year, well, the only year we did MagFest in 2024, and like at one point of that, I did they had a little live stream segment where I talked to some people like about the game there, but the game leading up to us, the one before it was a very Castlevania-like. It was like Castlevania on the NES, but it was so much like it that when I was watching footage of it, as somebody who's not super well versed in those games, like I haven't played a ton of that stuff, I could barely distinguish it from the source material, right? I was like, oh, that's like Castlevania 2. And then you watch it for long enough and you can see like, oh, some of these abilities are different. It is a different thing. But like that product was closer to its thing than I wanted to be to the stuff we're referencing. So that's another element where I actually like that the art is very different because it just makes it feel like not dedicated. Like if we had done straight pixel art or whatever, I would have been not as happy with that, I think. I like being distinct enough that you can definitely pick out our thing from a crowd. But like if you're well-read, quote unquote, in video game stuff, you know what's up with it. You know what it is if you played the games that it's referencing.
Well, you see the influence, and honestly, that's what art should be. We take the best of, and we put it through the lens of who we are. We're currently at PAX East, and I'm sure you're getting all kinds of feedback for the game. And you did MagFest, which is a very different kind of playthrough. And Lorraine, we were talking a bit before we got on mic that you also took this to Games Done Quick as well.
We did,
and got different feedback. Now, what has the different kinds of feedback you've gotten from those different crowds have been over the time?
It really does depend, because we know our game would be a really good running game. That was kind of something we've always kind of wanted to court, while especially in this later half of development. Taking it there was more of just what are you guys looking for? What would you want in a speed game, mostly feature-wise? Something that's new, that's very easy to see, is that we have milliseconds shown on the level time. That was not something we would have initially thought to put in there, but they're like, yes, I want that. I want to see, we were like, how granular, how deep do we go? And they're like, so we got that number dialed in. Most of the other shows we've been to, it's kind of, a lot of it's just been outreach, but we also want to our tutorial is something we've taken very seriously. We want to be able to onboard people to what is different about our game. So seeing that played X number of times, watching people have that aha moment, when they finally get the dash jump, which is probably the trickiest bit of our unique mechanics, knowing that we can get someone who doesn't play a lot of games to do that and do it repeatably, that's the main thing we've been looking for, is finding that where it all clicks.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as I learned the dash jump, I was like, oh, speedrunners are going to love this.
I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. And to add one little thing to what you guys were talking about there too, we have leaned a little towards trying to make it a speed game. As far as explicit stuff, I'm going to kind of wait until it's out and have those folks tell me what they want in terms of things to toggle, menu options, special features, stuff like that. But it has been front of mind, both because I love speedrunning. We don't speedrun, but I love watching GDQ. I like watching people do it. I'm going to be completely honest, it's been a little bit of a business decision kind of thing too, because I have never wanted to compromise on manipulative game loops, right? I don't want there to be extrinsic things that pull you back to the game. I want the game to be the thing that pulls you back. So if you want to play it for 15 hours, I want it to be because you like it, not because we have a daily challenge for you to complete every day to just check it off the list.
We appreciate that.
And so part of getting longevity into the game is to hope to appeal to the people who not only want to beat it, but want to perfect it.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and play it again and again.
Well, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. Clearly, it's unanimous amongst the entire podcast that we love your game. So tell folks where they can find the game, more info on it, and when we can possibly expect to be playing the full release.
Yeah, so the game is wishlistable now on Steam. The Steam page is up. It'll be out in 2027 for certain. It'll most likely launch next year at PAX East. If for some reason we hit a few stumbling blocks we're not expecting, our next target will be PAX West next year.
When will people be able to play the demo?
Right now, our current plans are to put up a demo on Steam at PAX West this year, so that would be September-ish.
Okay.
If it looks like we're going to shift that date, it'll basically move back proportionally, so it might be if it looks like we're going to be hit a PAX West launch next year instead, that might move to next March will be the demo instead like that. So a demo within the next 12 months for certain.
Incredible. Well, thank you both again for taking the time to chat with us. We love the game, and we can't wait to get hands on it at home. We just got done playing Gnaw by Red Start. We're here with John. John, to start, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what Gnaw is?
So Gnaw is a Metroidvania action-adventure game. You play as Ripley. He's a little raptor dinosaur. Your dinosaur city has come under attack, and you got to figure out exactly what's going on and who's behind some of these nefarious events.
Oh, very cool. And do you get to interact with some of the citizens here, or are you very much a lone wolf?
There's lots of other dinosaur citizens you can speak with. You can get some side quests from them. You can also just hear some lore about the city or the events that are going on, and see what they know and figure out what's going on.
I do like the design of everybody. Getting to be a Deinonychus in a leather jacket and talking to a sauropod in a puffer vest is this sets the vibe.
Yeah. Throughout the game, you can find all sorts of different outfits, and some of them will give you little benefits and power-ups, and then some of them are just for fun.
Nice. What was kind of the inspiration for the art design? We were talking about this before. It's got a little bit of a Nickelodeon Real Monsters kind of heavy shadow, but fun, while also doing some gross and grime feel.
Yeah, we were definitely inspired by a lot of 90s cartoons, a little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, also some comic book style. We really like the Hellboy comics. That was a big inspiration as well. But yeah, a little of that city grime going on.
Speaking to that design, before we started recording, you were talking a little bit about how designing the lead character Ripley and some of the other dinosaurs is mechanically a little different. Can you speak to how you created this character and how he actually works in this kind of cartoony setup?
Yeah, so as far as the mechanics go, we actually started with his chomp mechanic. That's your basic melee attack. We really liked that mechanic and thought that was a lot of fun. From there, we sort of expanded into eating all your enemies. So in this game, when you eat an enemy, especially a big boss, you can gain a new power and get onto the next area of the game. Eating the smaller enemies will give you things like filling your stomach so you can heal just a little bit, or give you some ammo for your projectile attacks as well.
That's awesome. And you said also that the rigging is a little different for this character, because while it looks fully animated like a giant sprite, there's actually some more intricacy to it.
Yeah, it works similar to a 3D character would, where he's got bones and a rig behind the scenes, but we're doing some things to make it feel like that hand-drawn style, like a traditional animation would be. So the animation's running at, say, 24 frames a second, whereas the gameplay and everything is still 60 frames a second.
And he's got a little bit of stretch and squash and everything going into places. It's not beholden to the dimensions.
Right, yeah. We wanted the character to feel very nice and fluid and loose and have some of that 90s cartoon style of squash and stretch and constantly moving around.
Well, and also looking at the backgrounds, it looks like a lot of design went into what this world will look like, the details, the almost kind of parallax scrolling of multiple layers. It seemed like it was a really important starting point to have a world that comes to life from the moment you're in it.
Yeah, absolutely. We really wanted a nice, dense city with a ton of life in it, right? So you can meet these other dinosaurs and speak to them. It's also full of enemies. We wanted something that was very interconnected, right? So we actually have 2 different layers in the game that you can explore. You can go in and out of buildings and explore those sort of multiple layers of the game.
As far as that sort of that density, that exploration, so this is all kind of one central hub city kind of exploring out from there, so there's never too much backtracking.
That's right, yeah. We wanted to keep the pacing nice and tight, really, and have something that is dense and keeps it active. So there's always something to encounter around every corner, basically.
Keeps the city feeling alive.
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks like you're going to get new abilities as you fight bosses and discover items. Is there an idea that as you explore, certain areas won't be explorable until you get these abilities?
Yeah, that's right. There's some areas where you'll find you don't have quite the right ability yet, and so you can return to those areas later when you've got that new ability to explore, find some additional secrets. It's pretty easy to get back there. We've got fast travel in the full game, so you can quickly go to where you're trying to get to.
Metroidvanias are known for their punishing bosses and stuff. Are you considering that and accessibility stuff as you build out this game, and new player versus someone who's experienced at Metroidvanias?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do want the combat to be challenging, but at the same time, we want to have the pacing of the difficulty in a way where you can really get used to how this particular game works and the timing and the combat. So we do try to sort of ease you into some of the harder boss fights. And the most challenging platforming, for example, is optional, side quest sort of stuff. That being said, good amount of challenge. We think that people will be able to overcome it.
Fantastic. Well, what is the current scope of the game as far as a Metroidvania goes? How long do you think it's going to be of a play experience for people?
It does depend a little on your skill level, but
of course.
Yeah, I think we're looking at around 20 hours or so of gameplay, give or take, at least to get to the credits. There's tons of secrets everywhere, so if you want to find every last nook and cranny, it's a little longer. Yeah.
I mean, it's a seedy city, and I want to see every corner of it. We are currently playing a PAX East exclusive demo, but there's a demo out now on Steam.
There is a demo on Steam, and yeah, the PAX exclusive demo has a bit more content. It's got an additional boss fight and more enemies. But yeah, you can check it out on Steam now if you want to give it a try.
Fantastic. So any of our listeners now that are hearing this interview that couldn't make it to PAX East, you can still check out Gnaw. Do you have a timeline of release, or do you have an idea of where that's going?
Yeah, so we should be releasing next year. So 2027, that's our window. So on Steam, we got Mac, Windows, and Linux support, but then we should also be on Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Incredible. Well, folks can bite into Gnaw online right now and definitely go wishlist it. Really, John, thank you for taking the time. This is easily one of my favorite things I've played so far. I mean, I'm a mark for this shit, but you know, it's still a high bar. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Yeah, so we're here with Jeremy playing Avengers on Marvel Maximum Collection. I was getting there. And it's so fun to see games that I grew up playing in the arcades now available. Yep. Like, it takes me back also to the Xbox Live days, in the early days when X-Men was on there, Simpsons was on there, right? All these games that I grew up playing, available online. And you guys added online play to this as well.
Absolutely. Rollback netcode, online play, cross-play as well. There's a couple regional things that we're working out now. Apparently some regions have been experiencing a little bit of lackluster experience, but the Carbon team is already on that, right? They're working to make sure, like, what the heck's going on? But that's another important thing, right? We want to make sure that the fans of these can experience it the way they want to.
And the fact that these games have online now where some of them didn't have anything like that is like astonishing. It lets you recreate that arcade feel. Oh yeah. Being in the arcades, playing them growing up.
Personally, I miss those days too, where you could travel to your local arcade. Local is the key word. Yeah. And go in, throw in some money, get some tokens, and play some games. Now you kind of have to travel somewhere to get to a decent arcade. Like even here, Retroware has an arcade set up. Yeah. Imagine being, we're from North Carolina. I want to go to an arcade. Well, I can't necessarily go to Boston to play it at PAX, but it's one of those things that now it's in the present. And you can do it from home. Yeah. You can do it with friends wherever they may be.
But the fact that it has both local and online is huge because most games have one or the other, or it doesn't always do cross-platform, which I know you guys do a lot when you can as well. Absolutely. Which is, I think, important this day and age. I don't think you can really release a game anymore without cross-platform support because it's just almost expected.
Yeah, one of my frequent Google searches are insert name of game, physical edition, to find out if it's physical. And then afterwards, I'll go insert name of game, physical edition, and crossplay. Yeah. And also now it's recently cross-save. If I want to play it on another platform, can my save carry over? And I suppose that's the newest rendition of quality of life features that are coming about. But at the end of the day, it's still cool to see that functionality is brought forward. And the Carbon team thinks about that sort of stuff.
Also, what's unique to this is, like, when I think of Rewind, I think of, like, NSO and those classic Nintendo games and, like, single-player games. Yeah. I don't think of Rewind in, like, multiplayer arcade games. And it seems like an obvious choice, right? Especially with the classics.
Yeah. No, I mean,
literally just be the stage of Silver Surfer thanks to Rewind.
That's what I'm saying. Some of these games are extremely freaking hard. Yeah. And then also, too, like, there's a generation now that's used to a certain type of game. Yeah. And this may come about and still be hard like it used to be. Yeah. So now this is a little bit of a, let's help you out. Let's that little bit of quality of life for more involved.
Well, what I like about it is that, you give the option to the player. You can make it as hard or as difficult as you want, or you can just enjoy it and beat these games that you might have never beaten as a kid. Yep. So you give the options to the player, and so everyone's happy, and I love that.
Yeah. Imagine putting this out there, and then half of the audience being like, what the heck is this? Yeah. Like, what's the point? They go into this and they give those considerations all throughout the entire development process to ensure that when this releases, it is on point, but everybody can enjoy it.
I mean, it's also clear that your preservation has been limited run mission since the beginning, and I feel like with every one of these collections, we get closer to actually being able to access all those things that we couldn't anymore.
Yep. I have been saying it a lot recently at our retail store. Someone had traded in a game and they cashed out at like $2,500. And it's just like, why is this game that much money? But I remember it as a kid renting it over and over again. That sort of thing you can't necessarily preserve if it's locked behind a high price tag.
Yeah.
Or maybe the license just ran out and it no longer exists. Right? This is how you do it. If you don't do it right, you're kind of assed out. You'll not be able to enjoy it the way it is. Let alone having to go third party. You're seeking out somebody selling it on eBay, or maybe you already own it, but you don't have a CRT TV. Oh, is that redundant? CRT. You don't have a CRT to plug in your retro console to play it authentically. You gotta find an adapter.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff is in consideration and brought forth and put through into this collection. The awesome thing is that talking with the team at Marvel, they're just as passionate about it.
That's awesome.
Like, to speak with them and have such, like, natural conversations. They love the product. They love the franchise. It's like, thank you, because you gotta love what you do, because that cascades into the end result, which is fans buying it.
Yeah.
So, is there a game that didn't get to make this collection that you're hoping can make a possible future collection?
So the answer there is yes. We see so many comments online. I can't name. My memory's shot anyway, but there's so many that get brought forward. I'm just personally happy for Maximum Carnage, but there's enough being listed online to justify, why don't we do a second volume, which would be really cool. No promises on that, but at least it starts with a discussion point.
Yeah.
Side note, they can name drop Living Laser, Claw, and Wonder Man, but they'll call a Sentinel giant robot.
Licensing is wild.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this could happen in Silver Surfer.
I've never seen that screen before in Silver Surfer.
That?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a hieroglyphic.
It's wild in the NES days, Silver Surfer qualified for their
own video game, yeah. Yeah.
Also, speaking of things that have made it onto here, as somebody who grew up with a Game Gear, not a Game Boy, as somebody who grew up with a Game Gear, I appreciate that you got what versions you could on this collection, and that includes at least one Game Gear version.
Funny you say that. I never had a Game Gear growing up. Now I can play at least a game on there, but also I didn't know those games existed on there.
I mean, I had all three of the X-Men titles, Mojo World, Game Master Legacy, that was my Marvel time growing up, watching everyone play Arcade's Revenge, Maximum Carnage on their big 16-bit whatever. I just had what I could. And so that's my nostalgia, and this is my getting to revisit it here.
It's all I want to hear. It's not like you're appreciating it, but it's something genuine that you cannot match that's coming from within. And I think that is necessary for the future. You just need to have retro throwbacks coming in and taking over everything, because that's when things were, not want to say perfect, but to everybody growing up, they were perfect.
Yeah.
They were. And there are plenty of games from those times that some of them they are good games, and we should remember them.
Yeah.
Some of them they did the best they could in the time. They're flawed, but we shouldn't forget them. The amount of indie titles that come out nowadays that when we cover them are basically I remember when we talked about Infernax years ago, hey, remember Castlevania 2? What if it was good? And there's so many titles that those are worth bringing forward, and if we forget them, just because they were licensed, just because they were, whatever it was, that preservation is important, and that nostalgia is just as good. If a collection like this, you get in on one game and you get to see the others, and it gets us thinking and it gets us talking. They should stay in the conversation.
100%. It's history. Stuff should never be forgotten. And this is where games came from, right? And something of even Silver Surfer. Something in there had to have inspired something else. And that was inspired by something else, right? That should never be lost, right? It's history. Let's keep it real. And the key word right there, preserve it.
And we're chatting with Trinidad, the chairwoman of Blackened Gaming. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, what can you tell our listeners about the initiatives and the mission of Blackened Gaming?
So Blackened Gaming is a nonprofit 501c3 that is focused on maintaining, empowering, educating, and developing Black talent within the gaming ecosystem. Black talent represents less than 5% in the gaming development space, and when you start to go up to leadership, it's less than 1%. All things Blackened Gaming, and our biggest focus is that we want to see us still here in 10 to 15 years. And we've been around for 20 years. So we're doing something right, but this is the year of us coming out. And what I mean by that is we've never done PR. It's always been word of mouth. And we've put money into saying we want the world to know that we're here. And we want you to be able to know that there's a resource for you if you are an ally or someone in this space that needs community.
It seems really important, especially now at this point in 2026, to support smaller communities within the gaming space because there just seems to be less and less of it. Small studios closing, large studios closing. What do you think was the impetus to really push harder into PR and get yourselves more out there?
Well, I became the chair of the board in September of last year. A year before that, I was the ED. Before that, I was in the space. I was working in the space. When I was the ED, I had but so much that I could do because I had a board that was over me that had their vision of what the orga should be doing. And so I quit in January 5th, 2025. And just the way that God works is 6 months later, they asked me to be the board chair. I can now bring together a board that cares about community. Not saying that the previous one didn't, but like we were just not on the same page. And now we can come together and we can realign and see what our community needs, see what the world is going through, and see ways that we can make this world a better place with our community. And so what that looks like is we have to get out there.
Yeah.
And before, we were comfortable only really publicizing our award show because it's camera ready and it's something that could be on YouTube or whatever. But we do so much more.
Yeah. This past year was the 9th annual Big Awards.
The one that just happened in March.
Happened in March. Oh my gosh.
So next year, 10
years.
We're gonna do it big.
I can
all
only
puns
imagine.
Intended. So we got to see you there.
We would love that.
We're gonna do it differently. We're gonna have round tables. We're going to do it like a gala, and we're going to celebrate that we've done this award for 10 years.
I feel in any community that has to advocate for itself, that has to develop for itself, it becomes that thing of like, there's always another thing to do. And like, that focus. It's not that they're not about community outreach. And it's are you defending and supporting? Are you building in and bringing in more? It is always such a difficult thing to find those pieces of strategy, and every piece of it is important.
And I can't agree with you more. The reason why you probably haven't heard about Blackened Gaming is because we've had our heads down. We were focused on our community, focused on what topics that were going on in the development and professional world. And honestly, I think over the last couple of years, and that's been a conversation that I've had with the board and with folks, I'm like, we have to connect to the content creators. We have to connect to the folks who are playing our games. We have to connect with the folks who talk about us or talk about the things that we create that we love. There's been assumptions on both sides.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm like, let's get in a room and let's discuss and let's talk about those assumptions and let's have conversations that in a humble way of like this, yeah, I did think this and I didn't, but this is the experience I've had. And I feel like when you go into a room and you share experiences, it moves from your head to your heart because now you're putting a person, a place, and a thing that feels behind what your thoughts you've had. And it's so easy to just make thoughts come out of our mouth and they have no warrant or no basis. It's just something that we've experienced with one insular event versus understanding that we live in a world with over 1 billion people in it and there's a lot of different perspectives and Black is not a monolith.
Intersectionality abounds.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important to make sure that people know you're here, but also the line between creator and developer and publisher and PR, like everyone does a little of everything. I mean, for our podcast, we're independent. So we're our social media team. We're our PR team.
Same with Black and Gaming.
Right.
The hats get passed around.
It's in who's the hats?
Yeah.
Put one on, put another one on, put another one on. And so, like, literally, this year was the first year that we had funds to pay for PR.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm working with the board on and talking to them about is, like, we need to continue this.
Yeah.
The relationship that we have is blossoming, and it's bringing more awareness.
Yeah.
And I think it's important.
I agree. And I think independent circles have a stronger sense of community, especially with diverse voices. Like, I want to see it everywhere, but in the independent communities that I'm in, it seems like so much more of a focus and so much more important to people. And so I think now is the time to really push into it and try and collaborate, right? No one can learn everything by themselves.
No.
And we have to work together. Like, I always want to know what I don't know, and people are often afraid of what they don't know, and you have to break down those walls.
I literally was just having a conversation before y'all, and I said, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know something that I don't know. And as we continue to get to know each other and grow, I can learn and glean. I had another conversation with another content creator earlier, and he says, oh, I work with other nonprofits. And I said, who are they? I might not even know who they are.
Right. And that idea of, well, on that level and on so many others, that, like you said, Black is not a monolith, queer is not a monolith, nerd is not a monolith, and everybody has reasons to be afraid to ask for help, to reach out, or to see who is in their community and in their circle. And I can even imagine in the previous years, all these years that Black and Gaming has been going on, has been working, it's putting people together so that when there's those like, I'm not so hot on my PR, who can I talk to? You know somebody. When people have, I don't remember if we had started recording proper, if we'd mentioned this, but you said that something that's great is giving Black voices, Black creators, freedom to fail and to build those things up, because we learn our answers by toiling, and we are able to toil better and do better the next time by knowing who to reach out to. And so knowing the other nonprofits, that like, who can we see, and it's community and connection.
So I founded Big Fest 3 years ago, and the reason that it came up was because we submitted talks to GDC and none of them got accepted. We were at the Children's Creativity Museum all day, and so I said, oh, we can actually bring those talks here, have them here before the award show, have some networking, have some indie developers. And the first year we had over 200 people show up.
Wow.
The second year, over 300. This year, we had over 777 people show up.
That's incredible.
Didn't GDC start in somebody's living room? Somebody just has to make the space.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that I want people to hear more often. A thought is not just a thought.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think things and we let it pass, and then 3 months later, we see someone with exactly the same thing, but created of what we thought. And we're like, oh, I thought of that. Or I had that thought. And it's like, you did, but you didn't move on it because you thought it was just a thought. You just let it bypass you, and you were like, oh, I'm just dreaming. No, like, when you pass by these huge warehouses, when you pass by these games that are super successful, it was someone's thought. And they had the means or the people around them that supported them to make it a living reality. And so I just want to encourage people that, like, I believe Big Fest can be its own, quote, like, to the size of PAX East, PAX West, because it's made for us, by us, with the right heart. But if I thought it was just a thought, it would not even be in existence. We wouldn't be talking about it today. Big Awards was a thought of Carl Venato and Dennis Matthews 9 years ago. Next year, we're going to be able to celebrate 10. And think about, we give away 10 awards every year. So think about 90 Black developers, artists, senior leaders, people advocating have gotten an award and been recognized for what they've done based off of a thought.
And it's so hard nowadays to get everyone to look to what you're trying to say and to get over the static of it all. Even here, PAX East. PAX has been going on for so long. We as Fun and Games have been coming here for years, and we get emails from PR companies and folks that are marketing, and then we'll always come here, and there's always at least one game, usually more, where it's just what is that? I've never heard of you before. This is amazing. We've got to talk about this. And having something, an award show, somewhere that like people are getting their flowers, some laurels that can show up on the Steam page, which always matters. People don't even see what the laurels are half the time. It's like, but it's awarded. And it gives it a nice landing place for people to get a good showcase.
Yeah, I'm grateful for folks like you. I'm grateful for Stride PR. I'm thankful for PAX and these environments where we can bring ourselves authentically to talk about what we care about. But I have been realizing that to be authentic in this space is actually a privilege. And I realize that I have this privilege because I don't care about being canceled. And so that's a privilege. Because I don't care, I move differently, and I want to acknowledge that there are folks out there that don't have the means to move however they need to move because they need to survive.
Yes.
So when I say safe places or creating a safe place to fail, I believe Black in Gaming is a space where, not everybody is as nice as I am, but I do think that if you look at the heart of why someone is giving you feedback or the heart of why someone is showing up and saying like, okay, this could be better, it's because we need to help each other be the best we can in environments that are not necessarily created for us. And when I think about developing something or creating something, y'all have been in the podcast game for a decade. I'm starting a podcast. I only have like 2 seasons, and I'm just like, I don't know what I don't know, right? All I know is that I can like put it on like the streams, right? So what I see Black in Gaming doing is creating a space for people who've been before us. But what my challenge has been and what I've been working on, folks, is like, we do not have to live in a scarcity mindset of I got to keep information only to myself.
Yeah.
And like, so if anybody sees my podcast or they hear what Black in Gaming is doing, I said, let me tell you what you need to know if you need it. But in an environment where there's so much scarcity, a lot of people hoard information because they feel like it will help them stay where they're at. And I've experienced this in corporate America when I, worked for people and they, instead of like showcasing and amplifying, they put a ceiling there. And so my prayer and hope for this generation and the generations to come and the folks that are involved in this space is that we have to remember that what is for us is for us. Like, your podcast listeners want to listen to you. Mine want to listen to me. There's over 1 billion people in this world. So I'm not stealing folks from you.
No.
And I'm not grifting. I'm here to spread the word, and when we're together, we're more powerful.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to sound like a hippie from the 80s, but I do believe like when we come together, when we put aside our differences, because we all have a ton of them, but recognize that the heart of the matter is that we all care about this industry. What does it look like to sustain it together?
Yeah. And I mean, Matt, you're a huge fan of saying a rising tide raises all ships. It is very much the we're all working on it together, and what we learn and what we share is only gonna make it better.
I used to say, like, if we help Black folk, everybody wins.
Yeah.
Like, if we help the most marginalized, it could be Black, it could be Latinx, it could be Jewish. Like, whoever the most marginalized is, and this is not a marginalizing contests of trauma bonding contests, but whoever it is, if we help and we build together, everybody's gonna win.
I mean, the indie podcast scene, it's very easy to look at someone else's podcast that got 100 downloads, 1,000 downloads, 20,000 downloads, and go, I want that. But the reality is, you just befriend that person, you can bring that audience to you. A good friend of ours, Dave Jackson, who's been podcasting for years, does like 1 game per episode and had a very small audience. And over a few years, collaborating with other people, collaborating with us, we're able to lift each other up. We get guests on his podcast, his audience gets to know us, he guests on our podcast, we get to know his audience. Like, it's just, it all works together. There's enough space for everybody to create and find love.
And every community makes something amazing. It just is about where the spotlight goes. Again, we get the marketing emails for these games, for these studios, but all the other ones that we've got to find on the floor on Sunday are just as good, if not more valid sometimes, and more our thing. And so sometimes it is, the most marginalized community makes as many, if not more, great things, great pieces of art than the things that get the spotlight. And so we can all share a little bit of the light. It's intangible, damn it. We can widen the lens.
I believe that, and I'm in a space where I truly believe that we all have a genius.
Yes.
I believe that we all have a purpose. And if you're doubting that, change your friends. Because, when you're surrounded by people who see you and who amplify what you do, you're just going to thrive in any space. Yeah. And it's not easy in the streets. It is hard at times, but we're made to succeed and rise. And so I definitely am excited about what's to come. I definitely am very aware of where we currently are and the struggles that we're going through.
Yeah.
But I also believe that in these times is when new ideas, in these times is when innovation pops off. And in these times is when someone who has maybe lost a job but has had this dream on the side of their brain. Remember, no thought is just a thought. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it now. And then they do it, and they super succeed over what they've even thought. Like, and it may sound like I'm just imagining and wishing, but I've seen in my life many people, negative circumstances birth an opportunity.
We got to create to survive sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, as far as if this is any of our listeners' first time hearing about Black in gaming and they want to support, they want to be a part of this, whether they are a Black creator that wants to be part of that community or there's somebody that just wants to support this initiative, where can they find y'all? How can they help out?
So if you are a Black creator, an ally, or even someone who doesn't even know what you are, you can go to thebigfoundation.org. We are Black in gaming across all platforms. So we're also on LinkedIn. And for the things that we do, like when we have events, you can go to linktree.com/Black in gaming, and all of our socials are on there. And then if we're doing something in the LA area or in the New York area or wherever we're going, we'll usually post our events there. But really, we want to get to know you. We want to learn from you. We want to glean and grow. And I believe we can all learn from each other and grow together.
All right. So my name is Sasha Guzenko. I'm a director and inventor of Alpine Trainer.
I'm Jack Perkins. This is Vania Games.
Hi there. This is Martine Mittner with Total Mayhem Games.
I'm Lindsay Barnett. I'm the CEO of Playground Productions, the home of the Backyard Sports franchise.
I'm Lorraine Morabito from Cubicorn Games.
I'm Dustin Morabito from Cubicorn Games.
My name is John. I'm the director at Red Start Interactive.
My name is Jeremy Campbell. I work for Limited Run Games.
This is Trinidad Hermita Black, and I work at Black in Gaming as the chair. Happy gaming, everyone.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.